Chapter 9:14. The hot Bangkok was filled with a thick smell of sweat. The scorching sun seemed to turn the world into a big oven that could roast the living. However, residents and tourists braved the high temperature and were still wandering in the bustling Galoa district, running around to make a living and strolling around. Sha Ho Club. It was the top entertainment club in the Galoa district that was full of customers all year round and had a booming business. There were many entertainment programs here, and it was a paradise for people as long as they had money. Likewise, it was also the lair of Songzan, who controlled the entire underground forces in the Galoa district. Amidst the undulating buildings, in the deepest and most inconspicuous corner, there were two low-rise houses among the lush old trees. Even the scorching sun in the sky couldn't shine on the two houses and the forest path. Boss. A stocky man with a fierce face, wearing a black suit and black sunglasses, strode through the forest and came to the courtyard in front of one of the houses. His eyes were full of respect as he looked at the big man in white sitting on the sofa in front of the pool and called out in a deep tone. Songzan looked up and lifted the brim of his sun hat and calmly asked, "What's up?" "Someone outside wants to see you. He said he has a generous gift for you," said the big man. "He's very strong. 6 of our guards have already been seriously injured by him. Besides, I can smell blood on him." Songzan squinted his eyes and asked, "Have you found out his origin?" The big man shook his head and said, "He's a new face. It's the first time he appears in front of us." Songzan shook his head and smilingly said, "What an arrogant guy. He even dares to come to see me directly. Bring him here. I want to see who dares to make trouble in my place under the pretext of giving gifts." "Understood." The big man replied and took out his mobile phone to dial a number, saying, "Bring him here." A few minutes later, Spectre, who was dressed in black casual clothes, sunglasses, and a sun hat, carried 2 black leather bags and came under the aim of the guns of more than a dozen strong men. As he walked to the sofa, he directly threw the 2 black leather bags in front of Songzan and then sat down on the sofa next to him. Crossing his legs, he said, "To be honest, this is the first time I've walked in front of someone openly, but it feels pretty good." Glancing at Spectre, Sultan calmly said, "You're really arrogant. I hope your gift won't disappoint me. But before I look at your gift, would you like to introduce yourself, sir? I never interact with strangers, unless it's a matter of life and death." Spectre grinned and said, "I think you should see the gift I sent you first. Don't be fooled by your calm demeanor right now. I guarantee that after you look at my gift, you'll reveal an interesting expression." After a moment of silence, Sultan gestured to the burly man beside him. The strong man nodded silently and strode to the 2 black leather bags. He squatted down and opened the zipper. Suddenly, a bloody head appeared in front of him. The face of the head was familiar to him. "Boss," the burly man's expression suddenly changed. He instantly pulled the pistol from his waist and aimed it at Spectre. At this moment, Sultan also saw the 2 heads clearly. A murderous intent emerged on his face as he turned to look at Spectre and coldly said, "These 2 are my loyal subordinates and my capable generals. You're able to kill them, so you do have some ability. But I can assure you that you won't be able to leave this courtyard if you don't give me an explanation today. Just these 2 trash." Spectre disdainfully said. "And they're your capable generals? It seems that the famous Songzan is also a crooked man." "That's right, to use the Chinese adjective, crooked and crooked. It seems that my understanding of Chinese culture has improved recently." He leisurely took out a cigarette and sniffed it before lighting it up and taking a puff. As he exhaled the smoke, he spoke again, "This is the gift my boss asked me to give you. He also wants me to warn you to restrain your men and not to come out to annoy him again for 2 days. My boss will come here to visit you 2 days later. I hope you'll have a reason to live by then." "Who's your boss?" asked Sultan in a deep voice. Spectre didn't rush to speak. He leisurely smoked half of the cigarette and flicked the butt into the pool with his finger. Then, he got up and lightly said, "Do you think you can know my boss's identity just because you want to? Let me give you a piece of advice. The most important thing is to think about how to survive. After saying that, he took out a poker card inlaid with black gold from his pocket and calmly put it on the small round table, saying, "I used to leave this card to the dead, but you made me make an exception twice." As his voice faded away, a golden thread instantly appeared between his fingers. As the thread swept across the burly man's neck, he laughed wildly and strode toward the courtyard's gate. Gulp, gulp, a tiny red mark appeared on the burly man's neck. As Spectre's footsteps left, the bloody mark continued to widen. In just a few seconds, the burly man's head was separated from his neck and fell to the ground, rolling to Songzan's feet. "Fucking bastard!" Songzan abruptly stood up. Dozens of strong men around him pulled off the safety of their pistols. Songzan's eyes swept across the poker card inlaid with black gold. The flame-shaped black mist on the card was like a ball of demonic fire, burning his eyes. "Don't shoot." At this moment, Sultan's body suddenly trembled and his pupils violently contracted as he shouted. The dozens of burly men who were about to shoot Spectre stopped pulling the trigger and looked at Sultan with a puzzled look. Staring at Spectre's back, Sultan shouted, "You're Spectre. The #1 assassin in the world, Spectre." Spectre's pace halted. He turned his head and sighed with a bit of regret. "What a pity. Do you know how much I wished your trash men would shoot me just now? My boss ordered me not to rush to kill you, but he didn't say that I don't need to fight back if you want to kill me. Do you still remember what I just said, Sultan? You're the first person who made me come here openly, and the first person who received my Spectre soul captor alive." Sultan's heart violently trembled a few times and he fiercely shouted, "Since when did the #1 assassin in the world, Spectre, become someone else's minion? Tell me, who's your boss?" Spectre turned around and walked outside. With his back facing Sultan, he said, "There's an old saying in Huaxia that haste makes waste. My boss will come to visit you in person 2 days later. You'll naturally know then." Sultan clenched his fists and fiercely glared at Spectre's back as he left. Complicated emotions were surging inside. If it were someone else who came here today, he would have given the order to shoot them without hesitation. But Spectre, he was afraid. The #1 assassin in the world was definitely the most terrifying existence. He didn't even have the confidence to order dozens of his men to shoot him. "Boss!" A burly man hurriedly called out. "Shut the hell up!" Sultan angrily shouted. After a while, as Spectre's figure disappeared from Sultan's sight, he sat back on the sofa with an ugly expression. He looked at the 3 heads in front of him and fell into silence for a long time before he took out his mobile and dialed a number. "Is something the matter, Sultan?" A slightly hoarse voice came from the phone. A respectful expression appeared on Sultan's face as he said, "I'm afraid I'm in trouble, big brother." "Speak." "It's the #1 assassin in the world, Spectre. He just came to visit me. He injured 6 of my men and killed 3 of them." "What did you say? Are you sure it's Spectre?" The voice coming from the phone became a bit urgent. "I can't tell if his identity is real or not, but he left the soul captor behind," said Sultan. "I've seen a picture of the soul captor before, and it's exactly the same as this one. Wait for me." The other side was silent for a long time before replying in a low voice. As the phone hung up, Sultan recalled what happened recently and immediately called his man, Alloway, telling him to come to his place at once. Amanda 5-star Hotel. Tan Xiao had just finished teaching Zhang Xinya how to identify the human body's acupoints when someone knocked on the door. As soon as he opened the door, Spectre immediately came to Tan Xiao and said, "I've met Sultan as per your order, boss." "Tell me the details," said Tan Xiao. Spectre narrated the matter and finally said, "He's very afraid of me. I'm afraid he'll send someone to investigate me after I leave, and even you, boss. He's the local tyrant here, so it'll be strange if he doesn't investigate us," said Tan Xiao indifferently. "But let him investigate us, as long as he doesn't bother me for the next 2 days. Also, I need you to help me investigate another matter." "What is it?" "I need to know who the leader of the biggest underground force in Bangkok is. I want to see his detailed information before tomorrow night if possible. How about I contact my informant again? Asked Spectre. You can also get information in T country? Asked Tan Xiu. My informants are in every country in the world, and they also belong to the Dark Wind organization, said Spectre. I can buy them with money if it's for my personal matters. The Dark Wind organization? A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he indifferently said, tell me the contact information of those informants. I'll buy them myself. As for you, I don't want others to know that you're my man now. Someone already knows that I'm your man, said Spectre. You mean Sultan, right? Asked Tan Xiu. Don't worry. He won't live for more than 3 days unless there's only one possibility. What possibility? Asked Spectre. Tan Xiu didn't answer his question and instead slowly said, except for you who followed me to the outside world, all the people I brought out from Labor Camp 1319 are now on Clam Island. The outside world probably already knows that you've escaped from Labor Camp 1319. Try to keep a low profile in the future. I don't want to be targeted by some forces. Chapter 9:15. At the Sheikh Club. Sultan's brows were tightly furrowed as he smoked one cigarette after another, throwing the cigarette butts on the floor. The appearance of the number one assassin in the assassin world, Spectre, filled him with irritation. Alloway had already arrived. The dried bloodstains on the floor that hadn't been wiped off made him tremble with fear and trepidation, so he stood quietly at the side. Boss, Big Boss Khan is here. A lean young man with a dense aura strode in from the outside and reported. Sultan looked up, got up and walked to the courtyard's entrance. He then saw Kanaja coming with more than a dozen men in black uniforms. He hurriedly greeted, Big Brother. Kanaja shot him an indifferent look. After entering the courtyard, he directly sat on the sofa and asked in a deep voice, Where's Spectre now? He left, said Sultan bitterly. Tell me the whole story. I want to know how you provoked him, said Kanaja. Or, how did you provoke the boss behind him? I don't know. Sultan shook his head. But I suspect it's related to a female star from China. Kanaja raised his brows and said, Tell me about it. Songzan pointed to Alloway and said, Big Brother, this matter was caused by Alloway. He has taken a fancy to a female star from Huaxia. Her name is Zhang Xinya, and she came here to shoot a music video. Because of her beauty, not only did he fail, but he was also taught a lesson by Zhang Xinya's bodyguard instead. I learned that Zhang Xinya's bodyguard is an expert, so I sent some people to investigate it. But the bodies of the 2 men I sent turned up in the Chao Phraya River. I originally planned to send more people to investigate him, but Spectre came with the heads of my other 2 men. Zhang Xinya. Kanaja squinted his eyes and asked, Is this the only trouble you've provoked recently? It's Alloway's trouble to be precise, Big Brother, said Sultan with a forced smile. Alloway's face turned pale. He knelt in front of Kanaja and said with a trembling voice, Big Brother, I've investigated Zhang Xinya's background. She's just a singer from China. Although she has a few bodyguards with her, it's impossible for her to be related to the world's number one assassin. Perhaps Spectre's arrival here has nothing to do with this matter. Where is Zhang Xinya? Asked Kanaja. Alloway said, She's staying at the 5-star Amanda Hotel. I have shares in that 5-star hotel. I've already sent someone there to get the surveillance video of the hotel. Looks like you're not stupid after all. Tell your men to send the surveillance footage here as soon as they get it. Yes, yes. Alloway hurriedly took out her phone to make a call. In the evening, Tan Xiu accompanied Zhang Xinya to the 5-star Amanda Hotel's dining hall. Just as they sat down at a table by the window, Singluan hurried over. He did not bring the 5 old men with him this time, only the petite woman. Mr. Tang. Singluan came to Tan Xiu with a smile on his face. Singluan, has your big brother come back? Tan Xiu got up and lightly smiled. Not yet. Singluan shook his head and said, but I got the news that he'll be back in T country in 2 days. However, he seems to have recruited several experts after he left this time. I've investigated and confirmed that one of them is Herdo, a former mercenary of Golden Flame. He's a very powerful figure. Tan Xiu waved his hand and motioned him to take a seat. Then, he lightly smiled and said, I'm not interested in how many experts Xingguo has recruited. I just hope he can come back soon. I'll inform you immediately once my big brother comes back, Mr. Tang, said Xingluan smilingly. Also, why didn't you inform me in advance that you're coming to Tea Country? This hotel may be good, but it's a bit far from my place. How about you come with me to my place? I have a seaside villa with a very good environment. It'll be very comfortable to stay there. Forget it. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, we've got a little trouble in Bangkok that I need to solve first. Xingluan stared blankly for a moment before his expression turned angry. He then said in a deep voice, you're my most distinguished guest, Mr. Tang. Whoever dares to provoke you in my place is not giving me face. Please tell me what the trouble is and I'll immediately send someone to help you solve it. Just as Tan Xiu was about to speak, he suddenly saw Spectre walking over with his hands in his trouser pockets. Gu Tao and Zhang Ju also came over without anyone noticing. There's a situation here. Tan Xiu instantly judged it and shifted his eyes to the several people who just came in from the restaurant's entrance. It only took him a glance to recognize that one of them was Songzan. He had seen Songzan's photo given to him by Spectre. Xingluan followed Tan Xiu's line of sight. His expression slightly changed when he saw the four newcomers. As the young master of the Dark Shaman clan, even if he rarely ran a business or worked hard, he still had a very strong intelligence network and connections. Even his father couldn't ignore the leader of the group, Kanaja. Could it be that they're the trouble Mr. Tang mentioned? Xingluan recalled how terrifying Tan Xiu was. The way he looked at Kanaja and Songzan turned unfriendly. Kanaja went straight to the table where Tan Xiu and Xingluan were seated. His eyes only lingered on Tan Xiu for a moment before his gaze landed on Xingluan. His slightly plump body stood firm and he smilingly said, I didn't expect that young Master Xingluan would also be here. It's been almost half a year since I last saw my father. Is he well? My father is fine, replied Xingluan indifferently. Kanaja was keenly aware of Xingluan's hostility. His brows furrowed imperceptibly as his eyes fell back on Tan Xiu and smilingly said, Are you Mr. Tang? Tan Xiu didn't move from his seat, but his eyes observed Kanaja for a moment before his gaze landed on Songzan and said, I remember that I told Spectre to warn you not to bother me for 2 days. But you didn't listen to my advice, and you should be well aware of the consequences. Songzan's heart thumped. He quickly glanced at his big brother, Kanaja, and then quickly lowered his head. After saying that, Tan Xiu looked at Kanaja again and said, It seems that your status is higher than Songzan's. It seems that the only person in Bangkok who can make Songzan follow him like a little brother is Kanaja, the local tyrant of Bangkok's underground forces, no? That's me. Kanaja's brows stretched out and a smile appeared on his face. I remember that there's a reception room on the 2nd floor of the hotel. Take your men there and wait for me, said Tan Xiu. I need to have a meal first. Kanaja's expression slightly changed, but he was a shrewd man. He didn't want to act rashly before he thoroughly understood Tan Xiu's background. Therefore, he nodded and said, All right, then I'll be waiting for you, Mr. Tang. As Kanaja and his men left, Xingluan gave a thumbs up and praised, Mr. Tang is really awe-inspiring. Kanaja is indeed a big shot of Bangkok's underground forces. Though he can't be compared to my Dark Shaman clan, his power is not to be underestimated. I didn't expect that he would be so cautious in front of Mr. Tang. Tan Xiu pointed to Spectre, who had his hands in his trouser pocket, and smilingly said, He's not afraid of me. He's afraid of him. Xingluan looked at Spectre with a surprised expression and asked with a confused expression, We're friends, so I don't need to hide it from you, said Tan Xiu with a smile. He's Spectre, my man. Spectre? Xingluan looked puzzled. He vaguely felt that the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. At this moment, A thin middle-aged man wearing glasses came with 2 bottles of wine. He stood in front of the table and respectfully said, "Dear guests, I'm the hotel's general manager, Kan Long. My boss asked me to personally deliver 2 bottles of wine to you." These 2 bottles of wine were bought by him from China with great difficulty. "I hope you'll be satisfied with them." "God's nectar." Zhang Xinya, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, smiled. "Who's your boss?" asked Tan Xiu. Kan Long said, "My boss is Songzan. He's a major shareholder of this hotel." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Is this guy trying to curry favor with me? Or are you trying to test me?" "Hee hee. Interesting. Put down the wine and go about your business." Kan Long frowned, but still bowed slightly and turned to leave. "Tang Xiu, if they don't continue to trouble us, let's just forget about this matter," said Zhang Xinya softly. "I know you're very powerful and you're not afraid of those people, but this is their territory after all. It's better to avoid trouble." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Don't worry, I know what to do." The second floor of the 5-star Amanda Hotel was divided into 6 conference halls. Among them, Kanaja sat quietly on a leather sofa in the highest grade, a small reception room of just over 100 square meters. He held an authentic Cuban cigar between his fingers as he pondered silently. His cell phone suddenly rang twice. Kanaja took out his phone and looked at it a few times. Then, he found a name marked, by Tao, in the phone's phone directory and dialed it. "Kanaja? Is something the matter?" A young voice came out of the phone. "Young Master Bai, I haven't seen you for several months and I miss you," said Kanaja with a smile. "Young Master Bai, when are you free to visit my Bangkok? I'm sure you'll be satisfied with some canaries from Europe and the United States." "Kanaja, there's a saying in Huaxia that no one visits a temple without a cause," said Bai Tao with a smile. "Surely you're not calling me just to invite me to Bangkok, right?" "You're smart, young Master Bai," said Kanaja with a smile. "As a matter of fact, I'm calling you to inquire about someone." "Who is it?" asked Bai Tao. "As far as I know, there's a singer in your country called Zhang Xinya," said Kanaja. "She belongs to a large entertainment company in China's imperial capital. Also, I found a young man beside her called Tan Xiu. To be honest, one of my men seems to have a misunderstanding with this Tan Xiu. Young Master Bai, I can't investigate his background for the time being due to the short time. Do you know anything about this young man?" Chapter 9:16. Bai Tao fell into silence on the other end of the phone. The relationship between him and Kanaja was very complicated. The two of them had once fought and became friends, yet they eventually became good friends despite the age gap. They even secretly cooperated to get a copper mine in Africa. Even though he didn't do it himself, he still got tens of millions of yuan in dividends every year. At this moment, his heartbeat sped up and a bit of worry could be seen in his eyes. Although he knew that Kanaja was still waiting for his answer, he didn't speak and quickly pondered over the seriousness of the matter. Tan Xiu. He was a ruthless character. Ever since he got to know Tan Xiu, and even deliberately befriended Tan Xiu, he knew how powerful Tan Xiu was. Even now, especially recently, he learned about Tan Xiu from many people and channels even though he didn't take the initiative to contact Tan Xiu. "What do you mean, young Master Bai?" Kanaja's voice came from the phone again. Bai Tao took a deep breath and asked, "Can you tell me seriously, have the two of you reached the point of life and death?" "What if it has reached the point of life and death?" asked Kanaja thoughtfully. "So what if it hasn't reached the point of life and death?" "If it has reached the point of life and death, I'll give you the copper mine in Africa and all my shares to you. We'll sever our relationship later," said Bai Tao in a deep voice. "But there's still room to turn the situation around if it hasn't reached the point of life and death. I suggest you put your attitude at the lowest and admit your mistake if you can and accept the punishment if you can. Kanaja, I can still call you Big Brother Kanaja, so I sincerely warn you that even if you can solve the problem by kowtowing and admitting your mistake, don't worry about whether your knees will hurt or not. Kanaja's expression changed and he said in a deep voice, "Young Master Bai, don't you think your words are too serious? Even if Tan Xiu is very powerful, this is Bangkok, Kanaja's turf. If we really shed all pretense of cordiality, will he still kill me?" Bai Tao said, "I can tell you that once you fall out with him, let alone killing you and uprooting your forces, he can even get rid of all the people in your network." "Are you familiar with him?" asked Kanaja with a solemn face. Bai Tao said, very familiar, very familiar. That's how I knew how powerful and scary he was. I know Kanaja is very powerful. You have both money and power. You're also a figure who has connections with both the underworld and the underworld in Tea country's Bangkok. However, Tan Xiu's status is very high. He's the Tang family's young master and the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. Even I don't know how many properties and armed forces he has. Kanaja was silent. Bai Tao's words were like a clap of thunder that exploded in his heart. He knew of the Tang family in the imperial capital. After all, it was a super wealthy family in Huaxia. He also knew about the magnificent Tang Corporation, which was the company with the greatest development potential in China. Even his favorite god's nectar was a product of the magnificent Tang Corporation. But this was Bangkok. Even if he had eyes and ears everywhere in China, shouldn't he be low-key in Bangkok? Suddenly, Kanaja recalled something and asked in a deep voice, "Young Master Bai, did you know that the world's top assassin, Spectre, is Tan Xiu's subordinate?" "What did you say?" Bai Tao sucked in a breath of cold air and cried out involuntarily. "You didn't hear it wrong. The world's top assassin, Spectre, is his subordinate," said Kanaja again. "I saw him and Spectre today." "The labor camp 1319 incident in Israel shocked the world," murmured Bai Tao. "The world's top assassin, Spectre, who was imprisoned in the labor camp 1319, also disappeared along with hundreds of felons. If Spectre became Tan Xiu's subordinate, then the others." Kanaja's pupils shrunk and his legs went soft, nearly causing him to fall to the ground. He had also paid attention to the labor camp 1319 incident in Israel and was greatly shocked. Bai Tao didn't mention it before. He was only concerned about Spectre's identity and didn't think about this matter. But now, he suddenly realized something terrifying. If the mastermind behind the labor camp 1319 incident in Israel was really Tan Xiu, then wouldn't he be too terrifying? "No, that's impossible, isn't it?" Kanaja's lips squirmed and he muttered. "The Tan Xiu I know is only something I can't imagine, and there's nothing he doesn't dare to do," said Bai Tao bitterly. "His personal strength, the power he has, and the crazy speed of making money like riding a rocket, all of these are proof of his ability. Tell me, Kanaja, what happened between you and him?" Kanaja recounted the whole story and finally said with a bitter expression, "I also found something else today. The second young master of the Dark Shaman clan, an ancient clan in Tea country, was with him. I also found that the relationship between them is not simple at all. Listen to my advice and lower your attitude to the lowest. Hit and scold him if he wants to," said Bai Tao. "Just stretch your neck if he wants to kill you. From what I know about him, he might let you go if you take the initiative to give in. But he'll be tougher than you if you keep a tough attitude. Kanaja, I've told you everything I need to say. It's up to you to do what you need to do. Do your best." "Wait a minute." Realizing that Bai Tao wanted to hang up, Kanaja immediately called out, "Young Master Bai, you're my little brother in my eyes. We've known each other for several years, and you should know how I treat you. Now that I'm in trouble, I hope you can help me. May I know how your relationship with him is?" Bai Tao was aware of Kanaja's thoughts. He instinctively wanted to stay out of this matter and didn't want to wade into these muddy waters. Yet, he was a bit reluctant to part with the tens of millions of annual dividends from Africa. Furthermore, he knew Kanaja's character. If he helped him in this matter, he might get more benefits. Inwardly, he thought. Countless thoughts kept churning in his mind. After weighing the pros and cons, he realized that Tan Xiu and Kanaja had yet to reach the point of life and death. This matter had nothing to do with Kanaja at all. Even if he had offended Tan Xiu, he was still Kanaja's little brother and his little brother's little brother. If he could intercede for him, perhaps Tan Xiu would let go of this matter. After thinking it through, Bai Tao said, Kanaja, just wait for Tan Xiu first and lower your attitude. I'll call him later. As for whether he'll stop or not, I can't give you a 100% guarantee. After all, Zhang Xinya is one of the key figures in this matter. What's the relationship between Zhang Xinya and Tan Xiu, exactly? Asked Kanaja quickly. Tan Xiu's charisma is too strong, and his luck with women is also very good, said Bai Tao with a forced smile. If my guess is correct, Zhang Xinya is very likely to be his woman. Further, Zhang Xinya went to Bangkok for work this time. The entertainment company she belongs to is a partnership of several young masters with strong backgrounds in China, and Tan Xiu is one of the shareholders. I'm afraid Tan Xiu isn't the only one who has been offended by your people who conspired against Zhang Xinya. Those two bastards, Songzan and Alloway, have really caused me to suffer miserably this time. Had I known earlier, I wouldn't have come to this Amanda Hotel and gotten involved in this muddy water. Young Master Bai, I hope you can help me deal with this matter. I'll keep this huge favor in mind. I'll express my gratitude to you after this matter is over smoothly. Kanaja's scalp tingled and a chill ran down his spine as he thought that the Labor Camp 1319 incident might be orchestrated by Tan Xiu. I will, said Bai Tao. Inside the 5-star Amanda Hotel's restaurant, Singluan's meal was tasteless. Although he knew that Tan Xiu was very strong, he didn't know if Tan Xiu had the absolute strength to overwhelm Kanaja in Bangkok. He had yet to control the entire Dark Shaman clan, so he couldn't help Tan Xiu even if he wanted to. However, his slightly worried heart calmed down after seeing Tan Xiu's carefree and relaxed expression while chatting and laughing with the beautiful woman beside him. Mr. Tang, how do you plan to solve Kanaja's matter? You can rest assured that I've chosen to cooperate with you. I'll stand by your side no matter what decision you make this time. I'll advance and retreat with you. Even if Kanaja wants to fight, I'm willing to charge and break through the enemy lines for you, said Singluan solemnly after thinking about it. Tan Xiu put down his chopsticks and looked up at Singluan with a smile, saying, there's no need for you to deal with such trivial matters. I can completely uproot Kanaja's entire force if I want to. However, he's someone with some power in Tea Country, after all. I can consider letting him off if he lowers his stance and promises me a condition. What condition do you want him to promise you? Asked Singluan quickly. Don't you think it's good to have another helper once we deal with your big brother? Asked Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Singluan's eyes instantly widened and he asked in surprise, you mean, you want Kanaja to help us? How is that possible? Not to mention that Kanaja has a friendship with my father, I'm afraid that his overbearing character. What are you afraid of? Tan Xiu chuckled and said, just put your heart at ease first. You haven't asked him for any conditions yet, so how can he show his attitude? Singluan nodded without a word. Tan Xiu's idea made him excited. If Kanaja could really help him in the struggle for power with his big brother, then he would become the heir of the Dark Shaman clan. Suddenly, he realized something and hurriedly asked, aren't you afraid that he'll leak the news, Mr. Tang? Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked, you mean, you're afraid that he'll leak the news that we're going to kill your big brother in advance? That's right. Singluan solemnly nodded and said, we're going to kill my big brother, so we need to keep it absolutely confidential. I don't know if my big brother and Kanaja have a friendship, but it'll be a big problem if they do. Chapter 9:17. Tan Xiu calmly nodded and said, it's not impossible. If that's the case, then let's not talk about this matter for now. I'll give him a verbal promise first. I don't need to worry even if he turns against us when we act. That's a good idea. Singluan nodded and said, we must prepare for the worst-case scenario and then prepare countermeasures in advance. Tan Xiu let out an indifferent smile and waved to Zhang Ju and Gu Tao not far away. After the two men arrived, he said, escort Xinya back to her room to rest. You're responsible for her safety. Also, contact all and the others to see how they're doing in Ning City. Tell them to come directly to Bangkok if they're done. Understood. Both men replied. Go back to your room and wait for me. Tan Xiao looked at Zhang Xinya and said, I'll settle this matter soon. Zhang Xinya worriedly said, how about I go with you? I'm afraid. Tan Xiao interrupted her with a smile and said, don't tell me you don't know what I'm capable of. Let alone Kanaja, even if the biggest boss of country T wants to deal with me, he won't be able to cause me any harm. Alright, just listen to me and go back to rest. I'll be back to my room in half an hour at most. Alright. Zhang Xinya realized that she wouldn't be able to help Tan Xiao even if she went with him. She immediately nodded and got up to leave. A few minutes later, Tan Xiao and Singluan came to the conference hall. A disdainful look flashed in their eyes when they saw Kanaja's men glaring at them. He slowly walked to the front of Kanaja and indifferently said, don't play tricks with me. Since you brought them here, it means that you want to stand up for them. So, I'll take it all. I'm afraid you misunderstood me, Mr. Tang. Kanaja let out a dry smile and said, I came here because I know that these two men of mine have made a mistake, a big one at that. That's why I brought them here to apologize to you and Miss Zhang. I've heard of your great name. It's like a thunderclap piercing my ears. This time the fault lies with the two of them. You can punish them as you wish. Tan Xiao raised his eyebrows in surprise. Kanaja's attitude just now wasn't like this. What made him change his attitude? Or rather, what had happened during the time he had been here? Something was not right. Even if he used some means to investigate his identity in China, he was only a descendant of the Tang family, the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, and the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. As for the matter regarding the everlasting feast hall, he shouldn't have found it. So, what was the problem? Tan Xiao looked at Kanaja and was silent for more than 10 seconds before he slowly said, it seems I underestimated you, Kanaja. Kanaja didn't see the apparition, but the fact that he didn't see it made his heart beat faster. No. You're overpraising me, Mr. Tang. Compared to you, I'm as light as a feather. That's right, I think you can say it that way in Chinese. You know Chinese culture? Tan Xiao was surprised. I know a bit about it, but not much, replied Kanaja hurriedly with a stuttering Mandarin. I like Chinese culture, but I don't have enough time to understand it. Tan Xiao was greatly surprised this time. He didn't expect that the big boss of an underground force in Bangkok of Tea country would not only be proficient in English, but also speak Mandarin. This guy was not ordinary. No wonder he could do whatever he wanted in Bangkok. You really made me think highly of you, Kanaja. Anyways, your Mandarin is too slippery, so let's converse in English. Your subordinates, and the subordinates of your subordinates, are plotting against my woman. I'm very angry, very angry. I won't let this matter go if you can't give me a satisfactory explanation. Kanaja straightly got up and fiercely kicked Songzan and Alaway's knees, making them kneel in front of Tan Xiao. Then, he said with an obsequious smile, these two bastards did do something wrong, Mr. Tang. I hope you can be magnanimous and spare their lives. I will order them to make up for it and compensate for it. I will let them compensate however you say. Also, Songzan has told me countless times that he admires you very much. It was because he didn't know that Miss Zhang was your woman that he had such crooked thoughts. Hence, I'll spare him this time for the sake that he's a loyal fan of yours. Admires me? Tan Xiao let out a faint smile. Tell me, why do you worship me? I don't think my name has spread to Tea country yet, no? You're the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, and your company's God's nectar is the best wine we've been dreaming to drink, said Kanaja hurriedly. It seems that you've investigated me thoroughly, haven't you? Tan Xiao's expression sank and he lightly said. No, absolutely not. Kanaja hurriedly waved his hand. I just, ring, the ringtone of Tan Xiao's mobile interrupted Kanaja. Tan Xiu took out his mobile and looked at the caller ID. He was a bit surprised since Bai Tao hadn't contacted him for a long time. Why did he suddenly call him now? However, he still pressed the answer button despite being a bit confused and said with a faint smile, "Old Bai, there's something I need to deal with now. I'll call you back later if there's nothing urgent." "Don't be in a hurry to hang up, Tan Xiu," said Bai Tao. "As a matter of fact, I'm calling you because I want to ask you something." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiu. "I was entrusted by someone to ask you for leniency," said Bai Tao with a forced smile. "Kanaja should be with you now, right? Do you know him?" asked Tan Xiu in surprise. "I got to know him a few years ago," said Bai Tao. "It can be said that we got to know each other through fighting, and we even partnered up to do some business in Africa. He just called me and asked me about you. Only then did I know that his men had offended you." "You're really resourceful, Old Bai," Tan Xiu said with a strange expression. "You even know the underground emperor of country T and even became his partner?" "Hey, Tan Xiu, please don't make fun of me." Bai Tao forced a smile. "If you don't have any deep enmity with him, can you give him a chance to apologize to him for my sake? Since you've come forward, it's really inexcusable if I don't give you face," said Tan Xiu. "Besides, Kanaja didn't offend me, and he's just sticking up for his men. I don't want to find trouble with Kanaja, but his 2 men. His men are his men. I can't be bothered with them," said Bai Tao hurriedly. "That's good, then," said Tan Xiu with a smile. The call ended. Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up to Kanaja and praised, "I didn't expect you to find yourself a life-saving talisman. Bai Tao and I have a good relationship, so I won't hold you responsible for standing up for your men for his sake. But I can't let these 2 off easily, especially him." Tan Xiu pointed to the pale Alloway and said in a deep voice, "Only death awaits those who provoke this Tan Xiu's woman." Not only did he send his men to do something bad, but he also personally came forward to deal with it. Alloway didn't understand English, but he realized that he was in big trouble this time. It seemed that even his big boss, the underground emperor of Bangkok, Kanaja, was speaking to him with a smile. Upon seeing Tan Xiu pointing at him, he hurriedly cried out, "Please spare me. Please help me, big boss. I'm willing to apologize and make up for my mistake." Kanaja took a deep breath, turned his head, and nodded to the man beside him. The lean man immediately dashed to Alloway and stabbed his sharp dagger into Alloway's chest. In just a dozen seconds, Alloway was dead. Sultan looked horrified and looked at Kanaja anxiously, calling out, "Big brother." Kanaja was silent for a moment and then said, "Prepare $50 million as an apology fee to Mr. Tang and Miss Zhang immediately after you go back. Also, I seem to remember that you have a very good diamond in your hand. Miss Zhang is so beautiful, so only she's qualified to wear it." Sultan looked pleasantly surprised. Though he was a bit distressed about the $50 million and the 40-carat diamond, he was secretly relieved that he could keep his life. He nodded without hesitation and said, "I'll send someone to deliver it to you immediately after I go back." "You must deliver it yourself," shouted Kanaja in a deep voice. "Yes, yes, yes. I'll listen to you," said Sultan hurriedly. Kanaja nodded in satisfaction. He then looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "What do you think about this, Mr. Tang?" "I don't lack money, nor do I lack diamonds, Kanaja," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Therefore, in my opinion, this method of apologizing doesn't have much meaning. Of course, this matter will be written off if you agree to one condition of mine." Kanaja's heart immediately tensed up and he asked, "What condition?" "You just need to promise me in advance." "I'll tell you when I think the time is ripe," said Tan Xiu. Kanaja recalled the soul hook invitation Spectre left for Sultan. He nodded and said, "I promise you that I'll definitely fulfill my promise as long as it's within my means." Tan Xiu nodded in satisfaction. He waved his hand to signal Sultan to get up and said, "Kanaja, how about we talk alone?" Kanaja's expression shifted and he immediately nodded. "You all go out and wait for me outside. Quickly." Only Tan Xiao and Kanaja were left in the living room. Singluan was very curious about what Tan Xiao wanted to talk to Kanaja about, but he still left. "What do you want to talk to me about, Mr. Tang?" "Mr. Kanaja, I wonder if you'll agree if I buy your men's lives with money," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "What do you mean?" asked Kanaja with a changed expression. "What I mean is that I want to buy one life for 1 yuan. I don't know the specific number, but I'm afraid it'll be at least dozens," said Tan Xiao. Chapter 9:18. Kanaja's expression turned a bit unsightly. He had just reached an agreement with Tan Xiao and the enmity between them had been written off. Yet now, he made such a request. Wasn't this the same as going back on his word? However, he was extremely shrewd and didn't get impatient. Instead, he stared deeply at Tan Xiao and asked, "Mr. Tang, may I know who the people you want to buy are?" "Everyone who knows about Spectre's existence except for you," answered Tan Xiao. "If I'm not mistaken, your trusted men and Songzan's men are the ones who killed them." Kanaja abruptly got up and asked in shock, "Why, Mr. Tang?" "Kanaja, you're very powerful and have a lot of information channels since you're able to thrive in Bangkok," said Tan Xiao with a solemn expression. "I'm sure you've heard about the big incident that happened in Israel's labor camp 1319, the large prison that detains highly dangerous criminals all over the world, right? Perhaps you've already guessed that I'm the mastermind behind it." Kanaja's body trembled and he asked in shock, "Is it really you? You're a smart man, aren't you?" Tan Xiao replied indifferently. "Didn't you guess that it was me from Spectre?" "It was your friend, young Master Bai, who reminded me," said Kanaja with a forced smile. "I really didn't think about it at first. But what does it have to do with buying my men's lives?" "Only the dead can keep secrets," said Tan Xiao indifferently. "You may not talk about it, but it's hard to guarantee that your men won't spill the beans about Spectre's existence. I promised you before that I won't pursue the responsibility of that matter, but what's more important is the news about Spectre and the other felons. Do you think that Spectre and those felons will let it go with so many people knowing about Spectre's matter? Rather than letting them all come to Bangkok and do it themselves, it's better for you to tell me about it and save us the trouble." Kanaja's scalp went numb. Just Spectre alone made him a bit afraid. If there were hundreds of terrifying felons, it would be better for him to commit suicide now. However, the dozen or so men he brought with him were all his trusted men. It would be a huge loss for him if he were to kill them all. As for Songzan and his subordinates, he didn't care much about them. Seeing Kanaja's dilemma, Tan Xiao said, "You may lose some men, but you'll gain my friendship if you agree. I think it's a good deal. You may not know this, but it won't be long before Singluan becomes the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. You must have some understanding of the Dark Shaman clan. This clan has a deep heritage. Singluan is my friend and we have a very good relationship. If you can win my friendship, it will be the same as winning Singluan's friendship. If you want to develop better in Tea Country in the future, I think Singluan will be of great help to you." Singluan will become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. How was this possible? As far as I know, Singluan's father, the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, is in good health. Singluan also has an elder brother named Singquo. Be it the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan or Singluan's elder brother, Singquo, they are all ants in my eyes. It's easy for me to kill them if I want to." Tan Xiao sneered. Singluan is an ambitious young talent, and the power he controls now is not small. Since I'm his friend, it will be very easy for him to become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan with my help. Kanaja instantly understood Tan Xiao's meaning and Singluan's plan. He quickly calculated the pros and cons in his mind. After weighing the pros and cons, he got up and solemnly said, "Do you really want me to gain your friendship, Mr. Tang?" Tan Xiao got up and stretched out his hand. There's a saying in Huaxia that the more friends you have, the easier it is to walk. I, Tan Xiao, may be very powerful, but I don't have any worthy friends. You're going to use your actions to gain my friendship. Killing intent burst out from Kanaja's eyes as he nodded and said, "I need to borrow Spectre's hand." You want me to send someone else to kill them? I can't do it. Tan Xiao applauded and said, those who achieve great things don't bother with trifles. You're truly worthy to be the boss of Bangkok's underground forces, Mr. Kanaja. I'm sure you'll go further in the future with stronger strength and more loyal subordinates. A raging flame ignited in Kanaja's eyes. It was a flame catalyzed by ambition. He clenched his fists and said, this is a big gamble, Mr. Tang, and I'm willing to bet on you. But can you answer a question for me? Go ahead, said Tan Xiao. Why did you get so many felons out of labor camp 1319, asked Kanaja. Who cares about having more subordinates these days? Tan Xiao asked with a faint smile. Just to find some subordinates? Kanaja was shocked. One had to know that those fellows were all vicious and merciless characters. They were all vicious and evil people. I admit that I'm not a good person, but compared to them, I'm already a very good person. Even if they are all vicious and vicious people, so what? Tan Xiao said. In front of me, they are also a group of ants. If anyone dares to disobey my orders or do something that betrays me, I can easily kill them. I believe they know how to choose between life and death. Aren't you overestimating your strength too much? Kanaja asked with a strange expression. Those people, Tan Xiao shook his head. As he spread his arms, 2 flames instantly appeared on his palms. Although he was still sitting, his body floated up. You, Kanaja looked horrified. He pointed at Tan Xiao and exclaimed, you're an ability user. An ability user? Tan Xiao sneered. I've killed a lot of ability users, but I'm not an ability user myself. The power I control is far from what those ability users can achieve. If I want to, even if there are 10,000 or 1,000,000 arcanists standing in front of me, I can still kill them all. Doesn't that make you invincible in the world? Kanaja couldn't deny it. Invincible in the world? Tan Xiao shook his head. There's no such thing as invincible in this world. You just don't know many people and don't know many aspects of the issues. You should have heard of the top 3 organizations in the world, yes? I know, said Kanaja. The Pyramid, Crusader Chable, and the Stygian Club, said Kanaja. I also know about the Dark Wind. That's right. These organizations are very powerful and have many powerhouses, Tan Xiao said. I've fought and killed a lot of vampires, werewolves, and feathermen from the Stygian Club. The strength of those people isn't something you can imagine. Vampires? Werewolves? Feathermen? Kanaja gasped. He knew that these species existed in the world, but he had never seen them with his own eyes. Yet, Tan Xiao was able to kill these terrifying things. Wasn't this too powerful? Suddenly, he was glad that he called Bai Tao and didn't tear all pretense of cordiality with Tan Xiao. Otherwise, he would have become a corpse by now, wouldn't he? Tan Xiao got up and waved his hand. I've said too much today, so let's call it a day. Do remember to give me a list later. I'll give it to Spectre to solve it. All right. Kanaja nodded with a solemn expression. Inside the Amanda hotel room, Zhang Xinya was a bit restless. She didn't know how Tan Xiao would solve the problem between him and Kanaja, but she didn't want Tan Xiao to kill again. Neither did she want Tan Xiao to encounter any danger. Knock, knock, the door was knocked and Zhang Xinya hurriedly ran to the room's door. But before her hand could touch the doorknob, the door was opened from the outside and Tan Xiao appeared in her sight. You're back. Are you all right? Zhang Xinya hurriedly looked at Tan Xiao. Only after seeing that he seemed to be fine did she feel relieved. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and shook his head. After entering the room, he took out his mobile phone and dialed a cell number. After his call was connected, he said, Bai Tao, I hope you won't tell anyone else about Spectre's existence. Don't worry about it, said Bai Tao. You're too shrewd. Tan Xiao sighed. You can even guess from Spectre that I'm the mastermind behind the labor camp 1319 incident. It seems that we'll have to meet after we go back. I'll treat you to some wine and meat to shut your mouth. Bai Tao let out a hollow laugh and curiously asked, I'm really puzzled, Tan Xiu. Why did you bring out so many vicious criminals from the labor camp 1319? Those guys are murderers without batting an eye. Can you control them? I won't hide it from you. I'm short of men, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Let me tell you one more thing. I have the absolute ability to control them. They're like little sheep under my hands. They don't dare to go west if I tell them to go east. They don't dare to go to the ground if I tell them to go to the sky. I can hardly imagine how powerful you are now, Tan Xiu, said Bai Tao incredulously. All right, I'll forget about this matter soon and never think about it again. Then it's settled. I'll treat you and Chu Yi to a drink after we go back, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I never thought that Chu Yi would become your cousin. Bai Tao chuckled. You two are relatives now, so you can't bully me together. That's hard to say, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Shameless, cursed Bai Tao with a smile. Afterward, the two men chatted for a while and then hung up the phone. Tan Xiu looked at Zhang Xinya and smilingly said, I'll accompany you out for a day tomorrow, and I'll send someone to send you back to China the day after tomorrow. I still have something important to do in Tea Country, so I must stay here for some time. It won't be dangerous, will it? Asked Zhang Xinya with concern. I told you, there won't be any danger, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Even the biggest underground force in Bangkok, Kanaja, has to be respectful in front of me. Who else do you think can bring danger to me? Chapter 919. Tan Xiu accepted Zhang Xinya not because he indulged his feelings, but because it was difficult to get rid of a beauty's kindness. Even in his previous life, when he was unstoppable in the immortal world, his heart was already full of softness. He used to be an idealist, thinking that if he only loved one in his life, he would be able to love her until the end of time. But the final result was that his dream was extinguished. Of course. Starting over, the heavenly art of cosmic genesis he chose to cultivate was the top cultivation method in the demon world, and his character was unknowingly influenced. The self-restraint he once had turned into doing whatever he wanted. People live only one life, and I am free and unfettered. If he wanted to cultivate the heavenly art of cosmic genesis to the highest realm, he had to live to his heart's content. If he wanted to, and if he did, he wanted to. Tan Xiu looked at Zhang Xinya's slightly worried expression in front of him, and his heart was filled with warmth. He was willing to treat those who were sincere to him sincerely. After gently hugging Zhang Xinya in his arms, Tan Xiu smiled and said, I always have a sense of propriety. When I encounter danger, I will fight if I can win, and if I can't win, I will run away. As long as there's life, there's hope. Therefore, the person who can kill me has not been born yet. Zhang Xinya nodded gently. Although she had obtained Tan Xiu's approval and became Tan Xiu's woman as she wished, she absolutely did not want to become a burden to Tan Xiu. She would not affect his work. Sacrifice. That was the most correct way. As a smart girl, she was very clear that it was enough for Tan Xiu to silently support him and love him. After all, to be his woman was a happy thing in itself. That night, Zhang Xinya gave up being reserved, shed her mysteriousness, and completely immersed herself in the movement of love. Although she had just lost her virginity, she still courageously catered to it, and completely became Tan Xiu's woman. However, for her first time, the end result was that when she woke up the next day with a face full of shyness, her lower body was burning with pain. Go play. Zhang Xinya looked forward to falling in love with ordinary girls, going shopping, and enjoying the world of the two of them. Therefore, she endured the faint pain and followed Tan Xiu out of the hotel. There were many scenic spots in Bangkok. The two of them visited many places, ate a lot of delicious food, and bought a lot of things. The sweetness made countless men and women jealous. Of course, because of Zhang Xinya's identity as a celebrity, the two tried to keep a low profile and put on simple disguises. Near Chao Phraya River. On the side of the wide road, there were many people gathered. More than half of them were wearing little red hats from the travel agency and holding little red flags. They were enjoying the magic show, and from time to time, they would exclaim in admiration. Amazing! Although Zhang Xinya knew that magic was just a smokescreen, when she saw the thin man with a scar on his left eyebrow holding a flame in his hand, he even grabbed a snow-white pigeon out of the flame. Tan Xiu scanned with his spiritual sense and saw through the middle-aged magician's means. He shook his head and smiled. It's just a small trick. With some special tools, you can play tricks in front of ordinary people. If you want to see a magic show, I'll show it to you when we get back. You can also perform magic. Zhang Xinya was surprised. My means are much better than magic. Tan Xiu smiled. This kind of show using props can only deceive ordinary people. It's impossible to deceive an expert. Bullshit. A girl standing next to them couldn't help but roll her eyes. Her name was Li Yan, and she came from China with a tour group. The magician's performance was wonderful and had completely conquered her. Just as she was admiring him, she heard some people talking in Mandarin nearby and couldn't help but despise them. The young man standing next to Li Yan, Yu Su, patted her shoulder and smilingly said, "There are all kinds of birds in a big forest. It's not surprising that we have more than 1 billion people in China. This guy is actually quite amazing. After all, he's bragging to a foreign country." Tan Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter when he saw the man and woman teasing him. The woman even showed a contemptuous look. Zhang Xinya, on the other hand, was unhappy when she heard that someone was looking down on Tan Xiu and argued, "Who are you calling a braggart? My boyfriend has always been a man of his word. He won't talk nonsense if he's not sure about something." Li Yan vaguely felt that Zhang Xinya looked familiar, but she couldn't recognize her due to the sun hat and big black sunglasses that covered most of her face. People always say that women in love have zero IQ, Belle. I think you've been bewitched by him. Let me tell you something. You must find a mature and steady boyfriend. A braggart like him is unreliable. Pfft, Zhang Xinya was amused by Li Yan's words. She recalled Tan Xiu's ability and character and suddenly felt that it was particularly interesting. Tan Xiu was also at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He shook his head and said, "Belle, don't you know that it's better to tear down 10 temples than to ruin a marriage? We don't have any enmity between us, right?" A smile appeared on Li Yan's face, but she still rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu and said, "It's a fact that I'm a Belle. You're not bragging this time. However, it's wrong of you to slander the magician. Look at how good his performance is." All the onlookers applauded. "If you really have the ability, then perform it in front of everyone. I'll apologize to you immediately if you're better than this magician." Yu Su was Li Yan's pursuer. Upon hearing her words, he immediately echoed loudly, "That's right, bro. If you're better than this magician, I'll immediately apologize to you on behalf of Li Yan. It doesn't matter if I apologize or not." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "I don't care about such a trivial matter. Besides, I'll only perform for my woman. I won't show it on the street." Upon hearing this, Yu Su thought that Tan Xiu was afraid. In order to perform well in front of Li Yan, he immediately burst into laughter and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a tourist from our tour group, is he? He just bragged that he's very good and that his magic is better than this magician's. I asked him to perform it in front of everyone, but he, ha ha ha. Do you want to see this bro's performance?" In a flash, the onlookers in the surroundings all turned their heads to look at Tan Xiu's group. Even the magician who was performing his magic looked angry. He knew Chinese and had once performed in China. Although he didn't gain much fame, it still made him unhappy that someone came to provoke him. Zhang Xinya noticed the gazes directed at them. She was worried that their identities would be exposed, so she immediately grabbed Tan Xiu's hand and said, "Let's go. There's nothing fun here. Let's go somewhere else." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile and was about to leave when he was stopped by the magician who squeezed through the crowd. With a grim expression, Bassoon sized up Tan Xiu and said, you also know magic? A little, but my level is average, answered Tan Xiu. Bassoon immediately wore a disdainful look upon hearing it and said, since your level is average, then don't boast and affect others. Pointing at Yusu, Tan Xiu said, I'm not the one who affected your performance. It's him. My girlfriend and I just came here to watch the show, but this guy just screamed and screamed at the top of his lungs. If you don't like it, then find trouble with him. Yusu suddenly looked angry and said angrily, don't put the blame on me. You were the one who said that the magician's magic was rubbish, so we laughed at you a little. What's wrong? You just mocked him, but you don't dare to admit it now. Young man, is it true or not? Asked Bassoon in a deep voice. Did you say that my magic is trash? Tan Xiu looked at the hostile looks on their faces and suddenly felt helpless. He wouldn't have said anything if he knew that he would cause such trouble. He looked at Zhang Xinya and asked, do you really want to see me perform magic? Zhang Xinya hesitated and said, I do, but don't do it here. I don't like this guy who betrays his compatriots and causes trouble. Li Yan shouted with dissatisfaction, what nonsense are you talking about? What's wrong with my friend? What do you mean by betraying your compatriots? What do you mean by causing trouble? You're obviously the one who belittled this magician and made our Chinese lose face, yet you don't want us to say anything. If you have the ability, then let him perform for everyone to see. Tan Xiu raised his brows and said, you two are really meddling in other people's business and asking to be slapped in the face. Fine. I'll fulfill your wish. I hope you can learn a lesson this time and don't cause trouble or provoke others in the future. After saying that, he looked around and loudly said, everyone, since they want to see me perform magic, then please step back, lest I affect you when I perform. Immediately, dozens of onlookers stepped back. Even the tea people who couldn't understand Mandarin retreated a few meters with everyone. Tan Xiu looked at Bassoon and sneered, I just said that your magic performance is very low level. Now, I'll let you broaden your horizons. Let's see what kind of magic can be called real magic. Tan Xiu gently spread his arms and blew on his right hand. Suddenly, a small flame appeared in Tan Xiu's palm and swayed with the wind. Tan Xiu gently blew on his left hand and a small flame appeared in Tan Xiu's palm. Everyone, I can change the appearance of this flame at will. Tell me what kind of flame you want to see, and I'll show it to you. Among the onlookers, a teenage girl loudly said, can you turn the flame into a white pigeon? Like that magician just now. How easy is it to turn into a white pigeon? Tan Xiu smiled. I'll turn a flaming pigeon for you and make it dance around you. After saying that, Tan Xiu controlled the flame and quickly turned it into a pigeon. He then gently waved his hand and the two flaming pigeons grew bigger. 2 seconds later, they were as big as a normal pigeon. Chapter 920. The two flame pigeons spread their wings and flew up from Tan Xiu's palm. They then flew around the girl and started dancing. The intense heat forced the people around the girl to take a few steps back, including her parents. Only the girl didn't feel the scorching heat. Amazing! The girl covered her mouth with her hand as her eyes glittered. She noticed that there were many flames fluttering around the two flame pigeons, making them look like fairies. The surrounding onlookers were also shocked. They didn't see Tan Xiu using any props. He just raised his hands and summoned the flame pigeons. Amazing! He really knows magic. He's not bragging. He's really amazing. What beautiful flame pigeons. They can even fly. Li Yan and Yusu's eyes turned wide as they watched the two flaming pigeons fluttering in the air with incredulity. Never once did they imagine that Tan Xiu could really perform magic and conjure flaming pigeons without using any props. How did he do it? The two of them had the same question in their minds. Bassoon also had the same question. At this moment, he was shocked since he didn't see Tan Xiu's props. This young man, did he really come here to play? He came prepared in advance and came here to pick a fight. A faint smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face as two groups of azure water appeared under his feet. Gradually, the two groups of water propped his body up and floated up until his feet were about a meter above the ground. Shortly after, he raised his finger, causing Zhang Xinya to cry out in surprise. She was also lifted by the two azure lights and gently embraced by Tan Xiu. "Are you afraid?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Zhang Xinya looked at her feet and found that they weren't too high. She secretly felt relieved and shook her head. "No, I'm not." "Since you're not afraid, why don't we dance?" Tan Xiu smiled. Zhang Xinya asked, "What dance?" Tan Xiu had never danced before, but he had seen a lot of dancers. So he directly led Zhang Xinya to dance according to the dance posture and steps in his memory. Zhang Xinya's movements were very beautiful. With Tan Xiu's deliberate cooperation, the two of them danced smoothly and naturally, giving people a breathtaking sense of beauty. Very soon, countless colorful flame pigeons appeared out of thin air around the two of them. These flame pigeons constantly changed their formation, creating a gorgeous scene in the sky for the two of them. Looking at the scene in the sky in shock, Bassoon's heart throbbed. At this moment, his eyes became exceptionally bright, and could even be described as resplendent. Shocking. Unbelievable. These emotions surged in his heart. Li Yan and Yu Su were dumbfounded as they stared at Tan Xiu and Zhang Xinya dancing in the air. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have thought that they were dreaming. Around them, the number of onlookers kept increasing. In just half a minute, there were already 200 to 300 people surrounding them, looking at the scene in the sky in shock. Many of them were discussing in shock. Heavens! It's unbelievable. This kind of scene can only be seen on TV, right? I didn't expect that it would appear in front of us in real life and bring such a big impact. It's so beautiful. I suddenly feel that it's so unreal. Isn't this a fairy tale world? How can anyone do this? They're all wearing hats and big sunglasses. But their figures are so good, and their temperament is so good. I want to see what they really look like. Is this still a magic trick? How can there be such a magic trick? Even a world-class magician can't do this, right? It's too amazing. After a few minutes of performance, Tan Xiu gently hugged Zhang Xinya in his arms and then floated down to the ground. The azure water light also gradually faded away. Tan Xiu raised his head and gently waved his hands. The flaming pigeons flying all over the sky gradually dissipated in the air. Even the flaming pigeons flying around the teenage girl were no exception. At this time, Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "Everyone, my performance for today is over. I hope you enjoyed it." "Yes. I like it so much. Can you perform one more?" Facing the loud praises and requests of the crowd, Tan Xiu smiled and looked at the shocked Li Yan and Yu Su, saying, "Do you two feel so ashamed that you want to find a hole to crawl into? Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. As fellow Chinese people, I hope you two behave yourselves and don't make a fool of yourselves outside the country." The two of them opened their mouths but didn't say anything. It was just as Tan Xiu said. Their faces were burning as though they had been slapped a few times, and their hearts were full of shame. They weren't fools and could naturally tell that Tan Xiu's magic performance was much better and more magical than the magician's. Tan Xiu shook his head and led Zhang Xinya outside. Bassoon's expression flickered. Seeing that Tan Xiu and Yu Su were about to leave, he immediately ran over and blocked Tan Xiu's path, shouting, "Who are you? What you just performed wasn't magic." "Don't jump to conclusions if you can't understand it," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "You're a magician, so you only need to remember to perform magic on the stage and not to get entangled with others and keep finding trouble for them. Of course, I hope you can forgive me if I affected your performance just now. If you want to blame someone, blame the two provocateurs. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have performed in front of everyone and ruined your place. Tell me that what you just performed wasn't a magic trick," shouted Ong. "How did you do it?" With a cold expression, Tan Xiu asked in a heavy voice, if someone asks you about the magic you've researched with great difficulty, will you tell them? Do you want to tell them about your means? I don't know. Bassoon's face turned pale and he replied with difficulty. Why bother asking me if you don't know? Tan Xiu sneered. Don't you know that inquiring about other magicians' means is a taboo in this industry? Bassoon's expression immediately changed upon hearing it and he bowed. I'm sorry. I was wrong. There's a saying in China that it's best to know one's mistake and mend it, said Tan Xiu. So don't pester me anymore. You won't get the result you want from me. We still have things to do, so we can't accompany you anymore. Goodbye. After saying that, pulling Zhang Xinya, he bypassed Bassoon and left quickly. Looking at Tan Xiu's back, Bassoon muttered, what he performed just now was definitely not magic. Magic can't be so miraculous. Who is he? How did he do it? A middle-aged man standing close to Bassoon curiously asked, is what you're saying true? What he did wasn't magic. No, absolutely not. Bassoon shook his head. I don't know how he did it, but it's definitely not magic. Performing magic requires props, but he didn't use any of them. Could it be that he's a celestial being? Exclaimed the middle-aged man. A celestial being? Bassoon's lips squirmed and he finally said bitterly, perhaps only celestial beings can describe him. Heavens! Am I as stupid as a pig? Why didn't I take a photo of such a beautiful scene? That's right. I'm really a fool despite being smart. If I had taken a photo and posted it on my moments, it would definitely cause a storm. What a pity. I didn't take any photos or videos. It's all that guy's fault. His performance was too miraculous and beautiful. I almost forgot about it. In the back corner of the crowd, a young man held a mobile phone and stared blankly at the direction Tan Xiu and Zhang Xinya left. Only when the surrounding people exclaimed in alarm did he wake up from his stupor. Looking at the regretful and vexed crowd, he suddenly rolled his eyes and shouted, I recorded the video. Anyone who wants the video can buy it from me. 10 yuan, no, 100 yuan can buy a video. Someone recorded the video. I'll buy it. I'll buy it too. I'll buy it. In just 10 minutes, hundreds of people bought the video. The young man excitedly forwarded the video to the surrounding people and kept stuffing 100 yuan bills into his pocket. More than 10,000 yuan. After receiving the last 100 yuan bill, the young man shouted excitedly in his heart. Tan Xiu didn't know that the scene of him and Zhang Xinya's performance was recorded by someone. He also didn't know that the guy used the video to earn more than 10,000 yuan in just 10 minutes. After he and Zhang Xinya left, they didn't go far but went to a nearby shopping mall. World-famous brand. Buy. Ordinary items. Buy. Both of them were in a surprisingly good mood. Even though Tan Xiu didn't like to spend money recklessly, he still accompanied Zhang Xinya to spend money like water. Of course, the items in the shopping mall were different in different floors. Only when the two of them entered the food city did they stop spending money. Back at the hotel, Zhang Xinya was exhausted, while Tang Xiu also faintly felt a sense of weariness. However, as Zhang Xinya slumped on the sofa, he continued to massage Zhang Xinya with his skillful technique, making her fatigue gradually disappear. Tan Xiu, you're amazing. Zhang Xinya enjoyed the comfort of her body and softly said. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and asked, which aspect are you referring to? Everything. Zhang Xinya said in a daze. Tan Xiu stopped massaging her and picked her up from the sofa. He strode to the bedroom and laughed. Actually, men are most satisfied with the aspect that women say is amazing. It's the activity that we're about to start. Don't worry. I'll do my best to serve you and make you. Chapter 921. As the first ray of sunlight rose from the east in the morning, Tang Xiu woke up from his sleep and looked at Zhang Xinya, who was still sleeping soundly with a rosy complexion. He reached out to grab the mobile phone on the bedside table and saw that there were dozens of missed calls. Long Zhengyu. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows and put on his clothes in confusion. He didn't even have the time to wash up and went to the living room outside to call back. The phone rang twice before it was picked up. Long Zhengyu's urgent voice then came out of the phone. Something happened in Nine Dragons Island, Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu's complexion changed and he asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" Two old black men came to the island last night. They said that they buried something in Nine Dragons Island and must dig it out, said Long Zhengyu. The place they said is in the center of the island, and houses have been built there. Now, there are already houses built there. If they dig, they will definitely tear down the houses that have been built. Who are they? Asked Tan Xiu. I don't know their identity, but they are very terrifying, said Long Zhengyu. There are a lot of guards on Nine Dragons Island, and many of them are experts. But in the conflict last night, those two old black men injured dozens of guards. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of 6 very powerful mysterious people, I'm afraid that those two old black men would have succeeded. Who are those 6 people? Asked Tan Xiu. I dare say that I've never seen them before. Long Zhengyu shook his head. Those 6 people seem to be only 17 or 18 years old and look very young, but they are very powerful, to the point that they can be called powerful. Let me put it this way. Even if they can't summon the wind and summon the rain, the magical magic they use is still very shocking. Cultivators? Tan Xiu's complexion changed and he asked in a deep voice, "What's the situation over there now?" Those two old black men and those 6 kids are confronting each other, said Long Zhengyu with a forced smile. They seem to be on the same level and can't do anything to each other. I'll be there tonight at the latest, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Remember, pay attention to safety, try not to conflict with them. But we definitely can't let them demolish the houses we've already built. Zhengyu, think of a way to delay them and wait for me to arrive. All right. Long Zhengyu agreed. Tan Xiu took a deep breath. After hanging up the phone, he dialed Mo Ao's number and learned that he, Jin Shi, Shui Sha, and He Xiong had appeared in T Country and were expected to arrive here in a few hours. Therefore, Tan Xiu immediately told Mo Ao that the 4 of them should immediately rush to Saipan and meet up there. Nine Dragons Island. In the future, it was an important place for Tan Xiu to cultivate. In order to rebuild it, he had spent too much money. Just for the early stage of the renovation, he had already spent 20 billion. In addition, he needed to put in a large amount of jade stones and set up a super formation. Now that something had happened over there, he had to rush over and solve it. He couldn't guess the identity of the black old man, but he had a faint feeling that those 6 17 to 18-year-old teenagers were definitely cultivators. According to the number of guards and experts he had sent to Nine Dragons Island, aside from Wolf Head and the other special forces, there were also Mo On and dozens of experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall. The other party is very strong. Tan Xiu woke up the sleeping Zhang Xinya and looked at her sleepy appearance. Although he couldn't bear to see her like this, he still said, "Xinya, I can't send someone to send you back to China for the time being. Take a bath and leave Bangkok with me. I'll take you to a place." Zhang Xinya's spirit shook and she happily asked, "You won't send me back to China?" "That's great. Where are we going?" "We'll go to Saipan first and then to Nine Dragons Island," said Tan Xiu. "Where's Nine Dragons Island?" Zhang Xinya was confused. "It's an island I bought in the Pacific Ocean," said Tan Xiu. "It's also our future base camp. Something happened there and I must rush there to solve it." Zhang Xinya suddenly understood. Although she didn't understand why Tan Xiu wanted to buy an island in the Pacific Ocean, nor did she understand what Tan Xiu meant by a base camp, she quickly got up, washed up, and packed up her luggage. 10 minutes later. As the 2 of them walked out of the hotel room, Tan Xiu saw Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju waiting outside. Aside from the 3 of them, Singluan was also there. "You're awake, Mr. Tang," said Singluan hurriedly. I have something important to deal with and must leave Tea Country immediately, said Tan Xiu. Singluan, let's cancel our plan for the time being. I'll come back here to find you after I've dealt with the matters in other places. Can you put the matters in other places aside first, Mr. Tang? Singluan forced a smile. My big brother has returned, and all the people I sent to monitor him have mysteriously disappeared. I suspect that he's aware that we're going to deal with him. If we don't deal with him now, I'm afraid he'll. Tan Xiu frowned and fell into silence for a moment. After that, he said, I do have something important to do, Singluan, so I must leave here as soon as possible. Of course, we can deal with your big brother first, but have you ever considered that your father will be furious if I leave immediately after we kill him? Besides, I think assassination is always better than doing it openly. After all, you're brothers. Singluan fell into silence. He knew that Tan Xiu's words made sense. According to the previous agreement and plan, he was going to kill his big brother Xingguo in secret, and then take over his father's power and eventually make him the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. But if he were to directly kill his big brother now, it would indeed lead to a lot of accidents. All right. I'll wait for you. Singluan forced a smile. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and smilingly said, You've been enduring for so many years, so it doesn't matter if you endure it for a few more days. Don't worry, I'll come back as soon as I deal with the matters elsewhere. At Bangkok Airport, Tan Xiu's group of 5 had just arrived and had yet to board the plane when 2 middle-aged men in black suits and black sunglasses arrived in a hurry. One of them had a scar on his mouth and asked in broken Mandarin, Are you Tan Xiu, Mr. Tang? Who are you? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. You'll soon know who we are, Mr. Tang, said the man. My young master has ordered us to ask Mr. Tang to wait for a while. He'll be here in 10 minutes at most. Tan Xiu looked at the time and found that there was still more than half an hour before boarding. He immediately said, I can wait for him, but I won't accompany you if he doesn't arrive in 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. A burly man with a height of about 1.7 meters strode over while being escorted by a group of black-clothed men. When he came in front of Tan Xiu, he glanced at Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju beside Tan Xiu. Then, he gently bowed and said, Are you Mr. Tang? Tan Xiu knew the man's identity the moment he saw him. Xingguo, the eldest young master of the Darkroom clan and Singluan's elder brother. Upon seeing his arrival, Tan Xiu immediately inferred that his and Singluan's purpose had been exposed and that there should be a traitor around Singluan. That's right. I am, replied Tan Xiu indifferently. I think there should be some misunderstanding between us, Mr. Tang, said Xingguo with a smile. But I won't explain much since Mr. Tang has to leave Bangkok. I came here this time to give you 2 gifts. I hope you like them. Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and said, I don't think you need to give me gifts. Xingguo took the 2 gift boxes from his 2 men and handed them to Tan Xiu, saying, Don't you want to see what I'm giving you, Mr. Tang? I guarantee you'll like them. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. He nodded to Spectre and opened the first gift box himself. What surprised him was that there was a crimson crystal inside the gift box. This crystal was diamond-shaped and looked crystal clear. There was a faint energy fluctuation coming from it. A fire crystal stone. Tan Xiu looked at Xingguo with a strange expression and asked, This gift is not light. I didn't expect you to have a fire crystal stone. It turns out that Mr. Tang knows this precious ore, said Xingguo with a faint smile. But I don't think this fire crystal stone is as attractive as the other gift to you. Tan Xiu personally opened the second gift box. His expression slightly changed when he saw the item inside. He looked up and shot a deep look at Xingguo. A meaningful expression suddenly appeared on his face as he said, Actually, even if you didn't come here today and didn't give me these 2 things, it wouldn't have taken me long to get them. If I remember correctly, Mr. Tang, there's an old saying in Huaxia that it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. There's no enmity between us. You just want to get the jade carvings, so I hope you can give up your cooperation with my brother. Tan Xiu took out the crimson jade pig from the gift box and asked, "There should be a traitor around Xingluan, right?" "My father deliberately trained me to be the heir of the family when I was very young," said Xingguo with a smile. "I haven't let him down for so many years. Even if I'm not very outstanding, I'm still qualified to be the heir of the Dark Shaman clan. Also, my brother doesn't know that I've actually controlled more than half of the clan's power. It was my father who gave me the authority in a low-key manner." "Why did you send the zodiac jade carvings directly to me since you have so much power under your control?" asked Tan Xiu. "Also, I only have these people around me. Don't you want to play with me in another way?" "No. I don't want to be your enemy." Xingguo shook his head. "My Dark Shaman clan's motto is that we must never provoke others unless they provoke us. If others provoke us, we'll try our best to resolve the conflict and strive to become friends with them." Tan Xiu looked at Xingguo, who was neither servile nor overbearing. He suddenly smiled and said, "I admit that you're better than your brother. But..." Chapter 922. Xingguo didn't know much about Tan Xiu, but he had investigated some of the things Tan Xiu had done in the past through various channels. What made him particularly wary was Tan Xiu's background, the Tang family in Huaxia's imperial capital. According to the intelligence, the Amur tiger of China should have been killed by Tan Xiu. Xingguo knew the Amur tiger and had visited him before. Although the Amur tiger was not a match for his extremely powerful subordinates, he was still not to be underestimated. Therefore, after figuring out that Tan Xiu's purpose was the zodiac jade carvings, he didn't hesitate to take out the jade pig and offered another precious ore he collected, intending to turn hostility into friendship. "But what?" asked Xingguo while looking at Tan Xiu with a smile still on his face. "It's just that I'm bound to keep my promise," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "You can immediately attack me now that you have the advantage in numbers. Else, you'll still be dead by the time I come back after dealing with the other matters." Xingguo's expression turned a bit solemn and the smile on his face disappeared. He shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and asked, "You really can't resolve it? Even if I give you the jade pig you want? Even if I give you a precious ore I've kept for many years as a gift?" Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly said, "I'll accept the jade pig and the fire crystal stone. Consider it as giving you some time to prepare. The Dark Shaman clan has 2 heirs, and I only want to see one of them when I come back. As for who it is, I don't care." Xingguo's expression shifted and he asked, "Can we get along peacefully in the future if you see me?" "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded and said again, "Not only will we get along peacefully, but we can also cooperate in some aspects." "Cooperation?" Xingguo sneered inwardly. He didn't know all the details about Tan Xiu, so he would never ask a tiger for its skin. Now, he finally realized that the reason why Tan Xiu agreed to help his idiot younger brother was probably because he promised Tan Xiu some conditions that would harm his own interests. Perhaps, this condition would cause the Dark Shaman clan to suffer heavy losses. 10 minutes later. After sitting in the first-class cabin, Tan Xiu immediately took out his mobile phone and dialed a cell number. After the call was connected, he said, "Xiaoxue, immediately send 20 Foundation establishment experts to Bangkok in Tea Country to find Xingluan and ensure his safety. Also, if Light and Dark have nothing else to do, let them lead the team over." "Yes, Grand Master," Gu Xiaoxue replied. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, "Tell Light and Dark to bring 50 essence amassing pills with them and give them to Xingluan in advance." Moreover, he was racing against time to improve the strength of his subordinates. "Also, there is a traitor around Xingluan. The traitor is definitely someone close to Xingluan. Tell him to find and kill him." "Yes, I will instruct you." The call ended. After Tan Xiu put his phone into his spatial ring, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He had to admit that Xingguo was more outstanding than Xingluan. However, Xingguo was too scheming and he didn't like dealing with such a person. If he wanted to get the Dark Shaman clan's demon stones in the future and gradually control the clan, Xingluan would be the best candidate. Therefore, Xingguo must die. It would be best if his father, the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, also died. At that time, he would be able to control Singluan more easily. Outside the airport, Singguo got into a limousine. As the car started, he immediately spoke to his confidant next to him, used the connections in China to thoroughly investigate that surnamed Tang. Also, help me contact the Darkwind's intelligence chief in China to buy information on Tan Xiu. Understood. The middle-aged man with a goatee and braided hair complied and immediately made several calls. However, his face turned a bit gloomy after he hung up the last call. He shook his head and said, I just contacted the Darkwind's intelligence chief in China, young master. I got some bad news. What news? Asked Singguo in a deep voice. The man told me that there's a lot of information on that Tan Xiu, but there's nothing substantial about him, said the goatee. What others can investigate, the Darkwind can also investigate. What others can't, they can't investigate much. Also, he told me that there seems to be a lot of terrifying people around that Tang guy. The Darkwind organization has lost dozens of elite intelligence agents in order to investigate his background, yet they still haven't found any of his core secrets. Singguo's expression slightly changed. He knew the Darkwind very well. It was the world's largest intelligence organization and definitely an existence that could penetrate every nook and cranny. If they wanted to, they could even investigate the color of the underwear worn by the M country's president. But why couldn't they find the most important information about Tan Xiu? There were two possibilities. First, Tan Xiu had a very powerful person with a strong anti-detection ability. Even though Tan Xiu had no other cards in his hand, the Darkwind's investigation was fruitless. Second, Tan Xiu had a very powerful force behind him that even the Darkwind couldn't find out what kind of existence that force was. Singguo suddenly had a bad hunch. No matter which of the two possibilities it was, it showed that Tan Xiu was not as simple as he seemed. Therefore, if he didn't want to be enemies with him and completely resolve the conflict between them, the only way was to get rid of his younger brother. I originally wanted to keep that little bastard alive for a few more years, but I didn't expect that he would want to get rid of me first. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being ruthless and disregarding family ties. The night was hazy. When the sea breeze blew, Tan Xiu, Zhang Xinya, Spectre, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju had boarded a taxi and were driving on the coastal highway of Saipan. Under the dim yellow street lights, Zhang Xinya was sleeping soundly in Tan Xiu's arms like a kitten, whereas Spectre was sitting in the front passenger seat, looking at the night view outside the window in a bored manner. Sir, the police have blocked the road ahead. The taxi driver suddenly turned his head and reported. Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and asked, It's 3 p.m. now. Why would the police block the road at this time? Also, is this the only way to Lao Bay Resort? Can we take a detour? I don't know why the police have blocked the road, said the taxi driver. But this is the shortest way to Lao Bay Resort. It'll take more than half an hour if we take a detour. Then drive there and ask them what's going on and why the road is blocked, said Tan Xiu. All right. The taxi driver complied and sped up again. When the taxi stopped in front of the 4 police cars, the taxi driver opened the window and asked aloud, Hey, Mr. Police. May I ask why the road is blocked? I have a guest in my car, and I'm going to Lao Bay Resort. Please get out of the car for inspection. A middle-aged man in a police uniform strode over and waved the baton in his hand. The taxi driver hesitated and turned to look at Tan Xiu in the back. Tan Xiu looked at Spectre and said, Tell them that I'm Tom Reggie's friend. Spectre nodded and shouted outside, Our boss is Tom Reggie's friend. I hope you can get out of the way. Also, our boss is very sleepy and tired now. You'll be very miserable if you affect our boss's schedule. Tom Reggie. The policeman's complexion slightly changed. As he was about to report to his superior, several headlights suddenly shone in the distance. Shortly after, 3 black SUVs stopped near the taxi. What's going on? A burly man came out of the SUV in the front and shouted loudly. The policeman's complexion immediately changed when he saw the license plates of the SUVs. He respectfully saluted and said, "Honorable sir, we've set up a roadblock here to pursue 2 criminals who committed murder a few days ago. Please forgive us if we've affected you. Get out of the way, quickly!" shouted the burly man. The policeman immediately shouted a few times. 2 of the police cars gave way and the burly man returned to the SUV. Immediately after, the 3 SUVs restarted and drove forward. Sitting in the taxi, Tan Xiu watched Spectre stride forward and block the 3 SUVs. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. At this moment, he already guessed that those 3 SUVs must be very powerful people in Saipan. "What are you doing?" The burly man poked his head out of the window and shouted at Spectre. Spectre simply ignored him and looked at the policeman instead, asking loudly, "Why can they pass but we can't? Do they have special privileges? Bastard!" Several policemen quickly rushed over and tried to drive Spectre away. Inside the taxi, Tan Xiu had already released his spiritual sense. A surprised look flashed in his eyes when he saw more than a dozen people in the 3 SUVs. He found that one of them looked somewhat familiar, and he knew this person because of his father. Tang Xiu gently pushed Zhang Xinya away and let her quietly lean on the seat to continue sleeping. He then opened the car's door, got off, and came to Spectre's front. He pointed to the policeman who rushed over and then spoke to the SUVs in fluent Mandarin, "I believe in fate." "Do you believe in fate, Mr. Song?" In the second SUV, Song Guanghui had woken up from his sleep because he had stopped the car. When he suddenly heard the sound outside the car, a look of surprise flashed across his face. As the car window opened, he looked outside, and his eyes revealed some confusion. A young man? A stranger? Song Guanghui thought for a while and asked, "Young man, are you from China? Do we know each other?" Just as Tan Xiu walked a few steps toward the SUV, 5 or 6 strong men rushed out of the car and stopped him. Several policemen also quickly pulled out their guns and aimed at Tan Xiu. "I once heard from my father that Uncle Song is a high-ranking official in Saipan. It seems that it's true." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said. Chapter 923. A glint flashed in Song Guanghui's eyes. He had concealed his identity in Saipan for 20 years and nearly cut off contact with everyone in the country. There were only a few people in the world who knew that he was called Song Guanghui. But who was he? How did he know his real surname? Song Guanghui shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and said, "Young man, I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I'm indeed a high-ranking official in Saipan. You can call me Sun Hui. But how should I address you?" "My surname is Tang," replied Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Surnamed Tang?" Song Guanghui pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his heart was shaken and his hand trembled. He suddenly grabbed the door handle and tried to restrain his emotions. He pretended to be relaxed and said with a smile, "I have a good impression of China since I once had a friend surnamed Tang. What's the situation here?" "We're going to Lao Bay Resort," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "But the road here is blocked. Uncle Song, can you do us a favor and ask these policemen to make an exception?" Song Guanghui squinted his eyes and carefully observed Tan Xiu. Then, he looked at the policeman and said, "It's fate that I met them. Please make an exception and let them pass." "Yes, yes, yes." The policeman hurriedly nodded and complied. Song Guanghui rolled up the window, but his eyes were always on Tan Xiu. After the SUV left, he ordered, "Stop the car 2 kilometers ahead and wait for the taxi behind." "Affirmative." A few minutes later, the taxi drove fast. Spectre on the front seat turned her head and whispered, "Boss, the SUVs we just met are parked in front." "Go there and park the car," said Tan Xiu. The taxi driver curiously turned his head to look at Tan Xiu. He nodded and drove the car over. Just as Tan Xiu got off the car, a middle-aged man walked over and said, "Mr. Tang, the general wants to see you." "The general?" Tan Xiu nodded without a word and walked towards Song Guanghui, who was standing not far away from him. Uncle Song. Song Guanghui turned around and looked at Tan Xiu again. Then, he silently nodded and said, "If my guess is correct, you should have seen through my true identity. However, there are no more than 5 people who know my true identity in this world." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Including a friend with the surname Tang?" Song Guanghui said in a deep voice, "That's right. We are sworn brothers who have gone through life and death together." "Uncle Song, my father is Tang Yunda," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "I met Uncle Chen Anhu not long ago in Macau. You should know both of them." Song Guanghui shuddered and hurriedly said, "What did you say? Big brother Yunda was still alive? Where is he? Are you really his son? My father didn't contact you?" Tan Xiu was confused. "No." Song Guanghui shook his head. Tan Xiu said, "It shouldn't be. More than half a year has passed since my father woke up. Logically speaking, he should have contacted you. How could he?" Song Guanghui was silent for a while before he forced a smile and said, "I understand." "What do you understand?" asked Tan Xiu. "Your father should have told you that we 3 brothers have a very strong enemy, right?" Song Guanghui said. "The reason why he hasn't contacted me is probably because he doesn't want to expose my identity." Tan Xiu suddenly understood and said, "My father did say that you had a very powerful enemy at that time. For the sake of safety, Uncle Chen and you both concealed our identities and didn't even want to return to the mainland. We developed in Macau and Saipan respectively. The reason why my father was found by the enemy 21 years ago was probably because he attracted the enemy's attention." "What exactly happened 21 years ago, Tan Xiu?" asked Song Guanghui hurriedly. "I was in contact with your father before, but I couldn't get in touch with him all of a sudden one day. All these years, I've quietly returned to China dozens of times, trying to find his trace. But every time I went, I came back with hope and came back with disappointment. My father was seriously injured and turned into a vegetative state," said Tan Xiu. "Then my family elders quietly took him from Star City to the imperial capital. In fact, I've never seen my father since I was a child. I thought he abandoned his wife and son, but it was only last year that I learned the truth. It turned out that he had been in a coma in a hospital in the imperial capital all these years. I have medical skills, and I've just saved him for more than half a year. Vegetative state. Coma. More than 20 years. Song Guanghui's body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. He and Tang Yunda were brothers who had gone through life and death together. They were comrades in arms who had blocked bullets for each other. He used to have no relatives. After he joined the army as an orphan, he only had a group of comrades in arms who were closer to him than his own family. A mission that lasted for several years. Brothers who had been together for several years. However, in that battle, only the 3 brothers, riddled with scars, were left. The 3 brothers took off their military uniforms and sneaked into the enemy's base camp to carry out sneak attacks and assassinations for several months. They killed dozens of enemies with their own hands and escaped from the enemy's pursuit. Scenes of the past constantly emerged in his mind as he recalled them. Those scenes, those brothers, and the blood of the brothers in the hail of bullets were still so vivid. "Uncle Song, my father once told me that he only has a few brothers. Apart from the Tang family, there are only 2 left," said Tan Xiu again. "One of them is Uncle Chen Anhu, and the other is you. Perhaps your guess is correct. The reason why my father didn't take the initiative to contact you after waking up for more than half a year is because he was afraid of bringing danger to you. Whether it's him or Uncle Chen, they are both developing their forces and training experts. Presumably, they still deeply remember the hatred of the past." Song Guanghui clenched his fists tightly. A crazy killing intent burst out from his eyes as he said, "That's right. The blood feud and the lives of so many brothers in the past are absolutely irreconcilable. All these years, I've often been awakened by nightmares and my tears wet the pillow. Those damn bastards, sooner or later, I'll make them pay a painful price. Tan Xiu, tell me how to contact your father. I've secretly trained a large number of experts and even controlled the garrison in Saipan. I've even secretly supported a certain mercenary group in Africa. I need to contact them and take revenge. Tan Xiu gave his father's number to Song Guanghui and said, Uncle Song, we really can't let go of the enmity of the past. But give me some time. I assure you that I'll definitely be your vanguard in half a year at most to exterminate all the enemies. Song Guanghui patted Tan Xiu's shoulder and happily said, Big brother Yunda has a good son. Come home with me. I'll introduce you to those two brats in my family. Uncle Song, I still have something important to do. I'll go to sea early in the morning, said Tan Xiu hesitantly. How about I go to sea first and then visit you after I'm done? Song Guanghui was confused. Going out to sea? What's the matter? Tan Xiu hesitated. He didn't know whether he should tell Song Guanghui about Nine Dragons Island or not. Song Guanghui slightly furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, Tang Xiu, I hope you can treat me as your family. Your father and I are sworn brothers who have been through life and death together. You're his son, which makes you my nephew. Although I can't say that I'm very powerful, there's nothing I can't do in Saipan. I'm already very satisfied with your words, Uncle Song, said Tan Xiu. You don't need to help me with this matter, I can solve it myself. In fact, it's not a big deal. I bought an island last year and it's now being rebuilt. But something happened there, so I need to rush there. An island? Song Guanghui stared blankly. His expression suddenly changed and he asked in a deep voice, You mean Nine Dragons Island? Yes, it's Nine Dragons Island, answered Tan Xiu. Do you know Tom Reggie? Asked Song Guanghui. According to the intelligence I've sent people to investigate, one of the two people in charge of the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island is Long Zhengyu of Star City's Long Group, and the other is Tom Reggie. That's right. Tom Reggie is a friend of one of my subordinates, and we have a deep friendship, said Tan Xiu. But judging from your attitude, Uncle Song, the relationship between you and Tom Reggie is the right-hand man of my political enemy, and we've had a lot of friction over the years, said Song Guanghui. Especially recently, he has recruited a lot of experts and robbed several of my business deals. Without this guy, I would have been able to do things freely in Saipan. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and suddenly asked, Do you have some time now, Uncle Song? Yeah, what do you want to do? Asked Song Guanghui. Come with me to see Tom Reggie if you have time, said Tan Xiu. I guarantee that he won't oppose you again starting from today. Don't be so full of yourself, Tan Xiu. Song Guanghui shook his head. I know Tom Reggie's character very well. He's very loyal to my political enemy, and it's all because of him that he's able to thrive in Saipan. Uncle Song, you'll know whether I can do it or not after you come with me, said Tan Xiu confidently. I'll give him a call first. Song Guanghui raised his hand and was about to stop Tan Xiu. But he suddenly recalled something and eventually gave up on stopping Tan Xiu. 4 a.m. At the entrance of the Lao Bay Resort, Tom Reggie and two of his trusted subordinates were quietly looking at the distant road under the surprised gazes of more than a dozen security guards. Eldest brother, when will Mr. Tang arrive? Asked the stocky middle-aged man with a bit of expectation in his eyes. He should be here soon. Just wait patiently, said Tom Reggie. That's right, I asked you to arrange the accommodation, have you arranged everything? It's all arranged, replied the middle-aged man respectfully. Suddenly, his expression moved as he pointed to 2 taxis and 3 SUVs coming from the distance, saying, Eldest brother, it should be Mr. Tang. Strange, what's the situation with those 3 SUVs? Their license plates are. Tom Reggie's expression slightly changed as he also recognized the license plates of those 3 SUVs. Senhui. How come Tan Xiu is with Senhui? Chapter 924. Tom Reggie was not a hothead. For him to be able to mix well in Saipan meant that he was definitely a shrewd and ruthless person. After his contact with Tan Xiu and the news he heard about Tan Xiu, he knew that Tan Xiu was a very powerful character, more powerful than many people he knew. But, how could this guy whom he regarded as a friend be together with his enemy? Judging from their appearance, they seemed to be very close. Mr. Tang. Tom Reggie suppressed the confusion and worry in his heart as he greeted Tan Xiu with open arms and gave him a big hug. Then, his eyes shifted to Song Guanghui. Tom Reggie, I don't need to introduce him to you, right? Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. You're all in Saipan, so I believe you're familiar with each other. Tom Reggie's expression was a bit strange as he nodded and said, General Sun Hui, the number 2 big shot in Saipan. I didn't expect that he would come to my resort, much less with you, Mr. Tang. He's not an outsider, Tom Reggie. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, we have a deep relationship. I can tell you that he's my elder, and he's one of us in the truest sense. I know the relationship between you two, so don't look at him with hostile eyes. Let's find a quiet place and have a good chat. I have a lot to talk to you, Mr. Tang. Tom Reggie shook his head and said, but there's nothing to talk about with him. I'm Mr. Dawes's man. It will have a bad influence on me if I get in touch with him late at night. I hope you can understand that. Upon seeing Tom Reggie's attitude, Song Guanghui secretly lowered his evaluation of Tan Xiu. He originally thought that Tang Xiu was a talented young man, just like his father who was once amazing. He didn't expect that Tang Xiu's thoughts were so simple that he even wanted to associate him with Tom Reggie. However, for the sake of his sworn brother, Tang Yunda, he barely held back his dissatisfaction and quietly waited for Tan Xiu's next move. Tom Reggie, I just told you that I understand the problem between you two, said Tan Xiu. The reason why I want to talk to you is because I have a purpose. Believe me, I won't harm you. Tom Reggie hesitated for a moment before he shook his head and said, Mr. Tang, you're On's boss, my partner and friend. I naturally trust you. But I don't trust him, so I can't agree. The black-capped specter suddenly took a step forward and sneered, no one in this world can refuse my boss's request, let alone a rookie like you. I'll give you 2 choices. First, prepare a place and have a good chat with my boss. Second, I'll kill you right now and replace you with your trusted subordinates. Little rookie, I hope you won't waste my energy. Tom Reggie couldn't clearly see Spectre's face, but he was filled with anger inside as he said in a deep voice, I'm talking to your boss. What qualifications do you have to interrupt? Spectre slowly raised the brim of his cap. When his whole face appeared in Tom Reggie's line of sight, he looked at his suddenly changed expression and sneered, Little rookie, if it wasn't because your heart's position is different from an ordinary person's, I'm afraid you wouldn't have the qualifications to stand here and talk to my boss, right? Tom Reggie was greatly shaken. He staggered back a few steps and pointed at Spectre with a fearful face, shouting, You, how come it's you? Aren't you? I'll kill you if you dare to say another word, said Spectre coldly. Tom Reggie was as though he was facing a formidable enemy. His eyes were flustered, his heart twitched, and his mood was extremely tense. Although he was once an executioner who had killed countless people, there were still some people in this world who could make him fearful. And the one in front of him was one of them. Subconsciously, he raised his hand and touched the position of his heart. There was a scar there, and the person who left this scar was none other than Spectre in front of him. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and asked in surprise, Do you know each other? Spectre licked his lips and let out a hollow laugh, He used to be a subordinate of one of my targets, boss. He's also a capable general of that target. It's a pity that this little rookie is nothing but trash in my eyes. I didn't look for trouble with him after I learned that he was still alive because he wasn't my target at that time. Didn't you say that only a few people in this world can recognize you? Tan Xiu frowned. How long have you been with me? How come so many people can recognize you? I assure you, boss, said Spectre hurriedly. There's absolutely no third person. Tan Xiu snorted coldly. He looked at Tom Reggie and said, I don't want to repeat myself for the 3rd time. He's my elder, and he's also one of us. No problem if you choose to refuse. But you must think clearly about the consequences, because the enemy you'll have to face may be me. Tom Reggie's throat turned dry. His eyes moved from Spectre's face to Tan Xiao with difficulty. He bitterly nodded and said, I'll arrange it right away. But can you tell me how he's also your subordinate? I can't figure it out. What can't you figure out? Asked Tan Xiao. I can't figure it out. How can we be willing to be your subordinates when facing such a terrifying character? Said Tom Reggie. He's not the same as On, after all. Do you really know me? Tan Xiao chuckled. Tom Reggie stared blankly for a moment before he immediately understood Tan Xiao's meaning. At this moment, the terror he felt toward Tan Xiao was even more intense than before. After taking a deep breath, he glanced at Song Guanghui, slightly bowed and said, Everyone, please. Song Guanghui's expression turned extremely strange at this moment. He didn't expect that the situation would be reversed like this. Just one of Tan Xiao's subordinates stood up and said a few words, yet it was enough to make Tom Reggie so terrified that even his attitude took a 180-degree turn. Who's Tan Xiao's subordinate? Song Guanghui was full of puzzlement as he followed Tan Xiao and the others to the villa that had been prepared for them. In the living room on the second floor, Tan Xiao gently patted Zhang Xinya's shoulder and said, You go to the room and rest first. We need to talk about something. Rest well, we'll be going out to sea in a few hours. Zhang Xinya didn't know much about Tan Xiao, so she nodded and went straight to the third floor to rest in the bedroom. On the sofa in the living room, Tan Xiao had just sat down when he looked at Tom Reggie and said, Would you agree if I told you to join Uncle Song's camp? Who's Uncle Song? Asked Tom Reggie, confused. Tan Xiao pointed to Song Guanghui and said, His real name is Song Guanghui. He's my father's sworn brother. That's why I told you that we're on the same side in the truest sense. Tom Reggie looked at Song Guanghui with disbelief. Never once did he expect that Sun Hui had another name and even seemed to have another identity. What Tan Xiao said is correct. His real name is Song Guanghui, and he used to be an elite soldier of the Chinese Special Forces, said Song Guanghui in a deep voice. Later, due to some unforeseen events, he separated from the Chinese military and came to Saipan, concealing his identity and walking step by step to his current position. Tom Reggie was suddenly enlightened. He finally realized that Tan Xiao and Sun Hui had a deep relationship. It turned out that both of them were Chinese, and Sun Hui and Tan Xiao's father were sworn brothers. Tom Reggie, there's something I don't need to say, but you should understand it, said Tan Xiao. The power I have is very powerful. Even if you know something about me, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, I'll give you a chance to become my subordinate. Tom Reggie's expression changed. He glanced at Spectre standing beside Tan Xiao and asked bitterly, Do I have the right to refuse? No. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, My relationship with Uncle Song needs to be kept a secret for the time being. Similarly, Spectre is my subordinate, so it needs to be kept a secret. There's a saying that the more you know, the more dangerous it is. You already know something about me, so you only have two choices to avoid trouble. Two choices. Tom Reggie was well aware of the two choices. First, submit to Tan Xiao and become his subordinate, which would allow him to live. Second, refuse Tan Xiao's proposal and he would most likely be killed now. He didn't believe that he would be able to escape after refusing. Not to mention that Tan Xiao was very powerful, just Spectre alone was not something he could match. What should I do? Do I really have to choose to submit to Tan Xiao? Looking at Tom Reggie's fluctuating expression, Tan Xiao said indifferently, Don't worry. Even if you choose to submit to me, your wealth is still yours. I won't give you too many orders. The more you work for me in the future, the more rewards you'll get. Do you still remember that I once told you that you might become a powerhouse like On one day? Tom Reggie's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, Are you willing to teach me Chinese Kung Fu? What's so great about Chinese Kung Fu? Tan Xiao shook his head. The ability I can teach you is something you can never imagine even in your dreams. Of course, once you become very strong, you may become more dangerous in the future. It's even possible that your enemies will no longer be ordinary humans. If they're not humans, then what are they? Tom Reggie was confused. The fierce beasts in the sea. Tan Xiu sneered, the fierce beasts in the sea are indeed very strong, but the enemies you'll have to face in the future may be even stronger. Let me give you an example. Vampires, beast men, feather clan, wizards, and so on in the Western world. You should know about these existences, right? You mean, I have hoped to be as powerful as those terrifying monsters in the future? Tom Reggie was horrified. And I still want to be their enemy? What about those vampires, beast men, feather clan, and wizards? Tan Xiu said disdainfully. If you're loyal to me, you'll definitely be able to kill them in seconds in the future. The enemies I'm talking about are existences more powerful than them. Tom Reggie was dumbfounded. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that Tan Xiu could say such words. It was as though Tan Xiu had placed a window in front of him, and he only needed to reach out and push it open to see a more magical world. Chapter 925. At this moment, it was not only Tom Reggie who was shocked. Even Song Guanghui, who was sitting on the sofa next to him, was dumbfounded as he looked at Tan Xiu with an incredulous look on his face. He was in a high position. Song Guanghui naturally knew some things that ordinary people didn't. For example, the existence of terrifying alien creatures such as vampires and half-blood beast men in this world, as well as the existence of some sorcerers and sorcerers with terrifying secret arts. Such existences were among their enemies in the past. However, how could Tan Xiu dare to promise that Tom Reggie would become an existence comparable to these terrifying creatures? Was he talking nonsense? Or was he telling the truth? Tan Xiu, Song Guanghui opened his mouth, but Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. Tan Xiu shot a deep look at Tom Reggie and said in a deep voice, "You must understand that even if you choose to submit to me, I'm afraid you won't be able to become my confidant. But I can assure you that I can greatly improve your strength and even increase your lifespan by several times." "What do you mean by increasing my lifespan by several times?" asked Tom Reggie. "For example, you can live to 100 years old. If you choose to submit to me, not only can I make you stronger than the current Spectre, but I can also make you live to 200 or 300 years old, or even 300 or 400 years old," said Tan Xiu. "Don't doubt me. You know my character. I've never talked big, and I won't lie through my teeth." Tom Reggie desperately shook his head and said, "That's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. How can someone live to 200 or 300 years old? How many years can those vampires live?" Tan Xiu sneered. Ugh, Tom Reggie was speechless. The vampires he knew were terrifying existences that could live for thousands of years. Could it be that humans could really live for a long time? "Suddenly, I need an answer now," said Tan Xiu impatiently. "Do you agree or refuse? Tell me now." "Tang. Boss, do you think I'm qualified to refuse?" Tom Reggie forced a smile. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said, "Since you don't refuse, then it means you agree. From now on, you're Tan Xiu's man. I'll send someone to teach you some cultivation methods after I'm done dealing with what happened on Nine Dragons Island. Your personal strength will increase several times in 3 years at most. This is my promise to you." "Yes." Tom Reggie silently nodded his head. Since he had chosen to submit to Tan Xiu, he had changed his mind. Ghost, the world's #1 killer, had become Tan Xiu's subordinate. It did not seem so shameful for him to become Tan Xiu's subordinate. "Tom Reggie, I want you to remember to maintain absolute respect in front of Uncle Song," said Tan Xiu. "In addition, if he has a conflict with your former backer, you must choose to stand on his side. When I'm not in Saipan, you'll have to listen to his orders." Tom Reggie glanced at Song Guanghui and reluctantly nodded. "I promise." Song Guanghui squinted his eyes and slowly said, "I'm glad you can join us, Tom. However, I can see that you're not willing to submit to Tan Xiu." But I want to tell you that you must keep your word since you've promised him. Else, I'll go all out to get rid of you even if I have to violate my agreement with Dawes. Tom Reggie's expression changed and he bluntly said, since even Aon and Ghost can submit to Mr. Tang, it means that Mr. Tang's power is much more terrifying than I imagined. So, even if I'm a little unwilling, since I've already made my choice, I'll know where I stand. Reluctance? Asked Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Yes. Replied Tom Reggie without any pretense. Tan Xiao's ghostly figure instantly disappeared in the sand. In nearly 1/100th of a second, he appeared in front of Tom Reggie. After grabbing him from the sofa, he directly stuffed a medicinal pill into his mouth and shouted in a stern voice, "Relax your body and pay attention to the energy flow inside your body. Bear the pain and bear it. Even if you feel like you're being hacked into pieces, you must endure it and feel it seriously." Having said that, a torrent of primal chaos force crazily poured into Tom Reggie's body and began to rush through his meridians according to the cultivation route of a nascent soul stage cultivation technique. Ouch! Tom Reggie's body trembled violently and he screamed out involuntarily. Regardless of it, Tan Xiao controlled the primal chaos force to rush through the blocked acupoints in Tom Reggie's meridians, bursting them and quickly repairing and nourishing them. In just 10 minutes, Tan Xiao had cleared 36 blocked acupoints and completely opened them according to the foundation of the cultivation technique, forming a cycle. Stinky smell. Everyone in the living room could smell the stench coming from Tom Reggie's body. Tan Xiao released Tom Reggie and threw him on the sofa. He watched him gasp for breath and his clothes were drenched in sweat, so he said with a smile, "Go to the bathroom downstairs and take a shower. I'll send someone to bring you a new set of clothes. I'll wait for you for half an hour." I don't have any strength left," said Tom Reggie with a trembling voice. "It hurts. It's more painful than a knife cutting my flesh. Trust me. You won't feel any pain in a few minutes," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "You'll feel a comfortable feeling that makes you wish you were dead instead. Go. I don't have much time left, so I can't delay it. I want to see you in front of me half an hour later." Bastard! Tom Reggie cursed inwardly. He struggled to prop his arms up and then walked toward the stairs step by step. Song Guanghui, who had been paying attention to Tan Xiao and Tom Reggie's movements, asked in astonishment after Tom Reggie disappeared at the stairs, "What were you doing just now, Tan Xiao?" "I was helping him clear some meridians to improve his strength," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Tom Reggie advocates force. "Although he's somewhat unwilling to submit to me, he'll completely submit to me after tasting the sweetness of making him stronger. Uncle Song, consider Tom Reggie as a meeting gift from me. I hope you don't mind it." Song Guanghui was silent for a moment before he suddenly said, "I need to contact your father." "I've given you my father's cell number," said Tan Xiao with a smile as he spread his hands. "You can call him at any time." Song Guanghui replied. He got up and gave some instructions to his subordinates before he walked into an empty room next door. After half an hour, he came out of the room. At this time, the way he looked at Tang Xiao was full of kindness and even excitement that couldn't be concealed. "Have you finished talking with my father, Uncle Song?" asked Tan Xiao with a smile. "Yeah, I've finished talking." Song Guanghui nodded. "Tan Xiao, I learned a lot about you from your father. Amazing, really amazing. Only now did I know that the magnificent Tang Corporation turned out to be founded by you, and you didn't use the slightest relationship with the Tang family at all. I didn't expect that you turned out to be a cultivator and even have a large number of cultivators under your command. It seems that my father really trusts you," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "He's even willing to tell you this kind of thing. We're brothers who have been through life and death together," said Song Guanghui bluntly. "Whether it was 20 years ago or 20 years later, we can block each other's bullets and die for each other." Tang Xiao gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Uncle Song, I really admire the pure brotherhood between you two. Now, what do you think of the big gift I've given you?" "I'm satisfied, very satisfied," said Song Guanghui with a flushed face. Tom Reggie is Daw's right-hand man, an enemy I attach great importance to. Now that he has suddenly become one of us, it'll be much easier for me to deal with Dawes. Uncle Song, you should be the second most powerful man in Saipan, right? Asked Tan Xiao with a smile. Do you want to be the real big boss? I can easily help you do it if you want to. How should I do it? Asked Song Guanghui hurriedly. Just arrange a car accident and I think it should be enough to take the life of this number one man, no? Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. Or let Spectre take action. He'll definitely be able to kill him easily. Song Guanghui looked at Spectre and asked with a confused expression, his real identity is, I won't hide it from you, Uncle Song. He's the world's number one assassin, Spectre, said Tan Xiao. You have a high position and power, so you should know a lot of things. Haven't you heard of his name? Spectre. The world's number one assassin. Song Guanghui's pupils shrunk and his complexion turned pale in an instant. The name, Spectre, he heard from Tom Reggie gave him a gloomy feeling, but he never thought that the name was related to that terrifying existence in the world of assassins. How could he not know about Spectre's existence? He was a man who could strike fear into the hearts of countless powerful bigwigs all over the world. Even he himself was afraid that the world's number one assassin, Spectre, would behead him in his sleep one day. How could he be Tan Xiao's subordinate? How could such a terrifying monster like Spectre be willing to be someone's subordinate? Suddenly, Song Guanghui felt that his sworn brother who had been through life and death told him too little about his son. That's awesome. While Song Guanghui was still in shock, Tom Reggie ran up the stairs with a flushed face. With an intense excitement on his face, he sprinted to the front of Tan Xiao and said aloud, Tang. Boss, how did you do it? I can feel that I'm much stronger than before, at least twice as strong as before. Also, my body feels very comfortable. It's more comfortable than a massage. I feel that I'm at least twice as strong as before. You won't be twice as strong as before if you're really familiar with this power, said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Now, do you believe that I have the ability to make you stronger? I do. I really do, said Tom Reggie excitedly. Chapter 926. With a strange expression on his face, Song Guanghui looked at Tan Xiao's excited expression. His heart was surging. He didn't know what Tan Xiao had done before, but after learning about his true identity from Tang Yunda, he realized that Tan Xiao's behavior was just like those martial arts masters in martial arts dramas who imbued their cultivation to others, making their cultivation advance by leaps and bounds in a short time. You've really become stronger, Tom Reggie. Tom Reggie nodded heavily and said, I just took a shower and tested myself. I could only lift 100 kilograms of weight at most before, but it's different now. I can lift nearly 200 kilograms of weight now. Song Guanghui's spirit was shaken. The way he looked at Tan Xiao was completely different from before. To be able to create an expert in just 10 minutes was simply a scene from a TV drama. Yet, Tan Xiao was able to do it, which showed that he was really powerful. If Tan Xiao could also help him open up his meridians, then wouldn't he also be able to lift hundreds of kilograms of weight? Possessing the strength of hundreds of kilograms? Looking at Tan Xiao with fiery eyes, Song Guanghui rubbed his hands and asked, Tan Xiao, I came from a military background and have always advocated martial arts since childhood. Even though I've been away from the army for more than 20 years, I've never let go of my martial arts. I even hired a grandmaster-level martial arts master to teach me martial arts. Tan Xiao instantly understood Song Guanghui's meaning. But it was definitely not a good thing to improve someone's cultivation by pulling up the seedlings to help them grow. Take Tom Reggie for example. He was indeed advancing by leaps and bounds at present, but his foundation was too poor. It would be very difficult for him to have great achievements in the future. Even if he had a lot of cultivation resources to assist him, it was still hard to say whether he could break through to the golden core stage. As for the nascent soul stage, it was very likely that he would never be able to reach it in this lifetime. Don't worry, Uncle Song. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, helping Tom Reggie improve his strength has consumed a lot of my energy. Also, I've been traveling all day today and have to go to Nine Dragons Island a few hours later. The problem there is also somewhat tricky, so we'll talk about helping you later. Song Guanghui was silent for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, since you said so, then we'll talk about it later. By the way, do you want me to send you there on a private plane? No need. Tan Xiu's expression shifted and he shook his head. I've contacted the people on Nine Dragons Island. A helicopter will come to pick us up. All right. Song Guanghui got up and said, if you need any help, just call me at any time. I've already given you my private number. As for Nine Dragons Island, I won't be following you there. When you come back, remember to contact me and come to my house. Tan Xiu said, I'll definitely pay a visit when the time comes. Very soon. Tan Xiu and Tom Reggie sent Song Guanghui off. As the sun rose from the east, the helicopter from Nine Dragons Island arrived. After landing on the helipad of Lao Bay Resort, Tan Xiu boarded the helicopter with Zhang Xinya, Ghost, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju. At this time, however, Tan Xiu received a call from Mo Ao and learned that they had also arrived at Lao Bay Resort. Tom Reggie, lend me one of your Lao Bay Resort's helicopters. Ao and the others are also here, so we need to go to Nine Dragons Island together. Tom Reggie's expression moved and he said, no problem. The helicopter can take off at any time. But how many people do Ao and the others have? There should be 4, answered Tan Xiu. If there are only 4, then I'll go with them. Tom Reggie hurriedly said. Long Zhenyu called me before, so I also want to go with them to see the situation. Then let's go together. Tan Xiu nodded. But bring fewer people with you. All right. At 8 a.m. 2 helicopters had arrived at Nine Dragons Island. After landing on the helipad, Mo On and Long Zhenyu hurriedly arrived with 4 or 5 people. What's the situation now? Tan Xiu had a panoramic view of the reconstruction project on Nine Dragons Island from a bird's-eye view. After the large-scale reconstruction, the buildings on Nine Dragons Island were undulating and scattered in various areas. The green environment on the island had also been greatly improved. A series of winding roads extended in all directions, passing through every building complex. Additionally, the 9 extended slopes were not damaged at all. Moreover, they were surrounded by guardrails, apparently becoming a restricted area on the island. As for the 2 newly built ports, there were a large number of armed personnel guarding them. All the cargo ships, passenger ships, yachts, and other ships were docked in a very orderly manner. Even on the surface of the sea near the port, there were lights on the water, and there were even several lighthouses built. Boss, we've figured out the identities of those 6 teenagers. All of them are from Singapore, said Mo On in a deep voice. They're Singaporeans and they belong to an ancient and mysterious sect. That sect had withdrawn from China more than 50 years ago and rebuilt in Singapore. As for those 2 old fellows, they have a deep enmity towards us. Even though they temporarily gave up on destroying the buildings on the island under the combined efforts of us and the 6 youths, they are still staying on top of a mountain and are unwilling to leave. What's the name of that ancient sect? Asked Tan Xiu. Have you inquired about the specific information? Mo On shook his head and said, I haven't. Those 6 teenagers don't want to talk about it. They seem to be very afraid of us. Although they agreed to let us arrange their accommodation for them, they didn't eat the food we provided them. They didn't even drink water. They only ate and drank the food they brought with them. Tan Xiu nodded. After arriving at the stone bridge, he sat in the car that drove over. As the car turned and headed toward the palace, he asked again, what about our casualties? 2 died, 6 were seriously injured, and more than a dozen were lightly injured, said Mo On. Wolfhead was also seriously injured and is recuperating in the palace, said Mo On. A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He glanced outside the window and suddenly said, she's Zhang Xinya, my woman. Lady boss. Mo On's mind moved and he hurriedly called out. Zhang Xinya knew that this island was purchased by Tan Xiu. But after coming here, she was shocked by the scene on Nine Dragons Island. It was because she realized that the cost to rebuild the entire Nine Dragons Island would definitely be astronomical. Additionally, there were not only various ships here, but also many airplanes. Among them were helicopters, military helicopters, and even fighter jets. It was simply like a private armed base. Also, she didn't expect that there would be a large and majestic palace on Nine Dragons Island in addition to the other buildings. She even found a lot of armed men armed with cold weapons stationed near the stone bridge. Hello. Zhang Xinya was very satisfied with the way Mo An addressed her. She smiled and nodded. Xinya, An and An are brothers, said Tan Xiu. This island is ours. You can consider this place as your home later. Zhang Xinya chuckled and said, this home is too big. It's like a garden city, very beautiful. Tan Xiu said with a smile, don't worry. This is my private territory and doesn't belong to any country. You just need to remember that you're the mistress here. All right. Zhang Xinya nodded heavily. Quickly. The convoy arrived at the entrance of the palace. Before Tan Xiu got off the car, he saw Mu Qingping standing at the entrance, holding Gu Yin's hand. It was obvious that they had been waiting for a long time. Yin baby. After getting off the car, Tan Xiu walked toward Mu Qingping and Gu Yin while opening his arms. Gu Yin let out a silver bell-like laughter. She was like a dancing butterfly as she gracefully threw herself into Tan Xiu's embrace and kissed Tan Xiu's cheek. Then, she excitedly said, Master, Yin hasn't seen you for more than half a year. I miss you very much. Tan Xiu said with a smile, Master also misses Yin. How are you? Are you used to living here? I'm very used to it. Yin likes it here very much. Gu Yin said with a smile. It's good that you like it. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Big sis Mu, are you alright? Mu Qingping smiled and nodded, everything is fine, Mr. Tang. With An and the others here, I don't have many things to do. Tan Xiu nodded. After introducing Zhang Xinya to Mu Qingping, he said, Big sis Mu, you settle Xinya first. An and I still have things to do. Mu Qingping quickly said, Mr. Tang, I'll arrange Miss Zhang well. However, you must pay attention to your safety. Those people coming from the island are very powerful. Don't worry. Tan Xiu said. I don't care about those people. After a while, Tan Xiu looked around and said, An, send someone to take those 6 kids to the place where those 2 old guys are. Let's go and see the situation first. They dare to come to my Nine Dragons Island and cause trouble. I want to see how great their ability is. Mo An complied and waved his hand to order his men to do it. Then, he took Tan Xiu and entered the cars. More than a dozen cars quickly drove toward the depths of Nine Dragons Island. 10 minutes later, the convoy stopped in front of a building halfway up a mountain peak. Boss, the cars can only go up to here. If we want to climb the mountain, we must climb up by ourselves. It's not far. We can reach the top in 10 minutes at most, said Mo An. Tang Xiu nodded in response. Just as he led the crowd to the top of the mountain, he saw 2 old men in black robes with messy hair standing on a boulder. They held diamond-studded staffs in their hands and had a large number of tattoos on their faces, giving them a gloomy and terrifying feeling. In addition, around the boulder were 2 5-meter-long, bucket-thick pythons that swallowed their tongues and slithered around the boulder. When Tan Xiu's group approached, the 2 pythons suddenly stopped in front of the boulder. Their gloomy eyes stared at them as if they would attack them at any time. Chapter 927. The 2 multicolored pythons brought a great deterrent force to everyone. Even Tan Xiu was secretly startled because he was keenly aware that the 2 pythons had bumps on their heads. It was obviously a sign that pythons were about to evolve into flood dragons. Tan Xiu had seen the Kruer python raised by Ao way before. But compared to the 2 pythons in front of him, that Kruer python was not on the same level, be it in terms of size or strength. It could be said that any one of these two pythons could easily kill more than 10 Kruger pythons. However, what made Tan Xiu even more surprised was that the two black-robed old men who were kneeling on the boulders faintly emitted fluctuations that made him feel a trace of threat. "Who are you people?" Tan Xiu was silent for more than 10 seconds and then shouted in a deep voice more than 20 meters away from the two old men. Hiss! The two old men simply ignored Tan Xiu and acted as if they didn't hear Tan Xiu's question. They still sat on the boulders with their eyes closed and motionless. On the contrary, the two multicolored pythons hissed and flicked their tongues as if driving them away. Tan Xiu snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, "You two old geezers are very arrogant, but I hope you have the capital to be arrogant. This 9 Dragons Island is my turf. I'll give you a chance to get the hell out of this island at once, else you'll lose the chance to leave." At this time, one of the black-robed old men finally opened his eyes slowly. As he lightly stood up, the magic staff in his hands suddenly emitted a special energy fluctuation. His eyes were not black and white, but blue and gray, making him look a bit demonic. "What you just said makes me feel ridiculous, young man. You're not qualified to know who we are. You may have a lot of experts here, but it's not like we can't clean you up in our eyes. However, I heard that you need to spend money to get what you want in the outside world. The children gave us a lot of money when we came out of the clan's territory. Promise me, I will give you the money, and you will leave this island." Tan Xiu slightly frowned and said in a deep voice, 9 Dragons Island is mine. I'll never sell it. Even if you give me a mountain of gold and silver, it's still not enough. Tell me, where did you come from? The black-robed old man sighed and said, "Ants are truly pitiful. They actually don't know that their time of death has come." The respected god of the sorcerer tribe had once said, "The lower classes are naturally stupid and stubborn. If you want to tame them, you can only rely on force." It's just that I didn't expect that there would be someone among these pitiful ants who could see through the mysteries of this island. However, my celestial wizard clan is determined to get this island. A large number of my clansmen will be arriving soon, so you must leave before they arrive. You may still have a chance to survive. Otherwise, it won't be us who will die on this island, but you. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed. He turned to look at Mo On and said, "A communication tower has been built on 9 Dragons Island? It can communicate with the outside world?" Mo On said, "Boss, this is your order before. Now that the signal tower has been built and put into use, we can contact the outside world on 9 Dragons Island through the phone." Tan Xiu's heart sank and he said with a gloomy face, 9 Dragons Island is mine. No one can take it away from me. Since you want to rob my territory, there's only one path left for you, fighting and killing. I was a bit worried before. My men's strength has advanced by leaps and bounds, yet they don't have any enemies to spar with and have no experience in fighting with real powerhouses. Now that your celestial wizard clan has come to my door, I can temporarily use 9 Dragons Island as a battlefield. Having said that, Tan Xiu turned his head to look at Mo Ao and said, "Notify Xiaoxue to send all core clansmen to 9 Dragons Island, except for those who have urgent missions." Understood. Mo Ao replied and strode to the back. Tan Xiu then looked at the black-robed old man and said in a deep voice, "I'll give you 2 geezers 3 minutes. If you're still stubborn and don't want to leave after 3 minutes, then there's no need for us to waste our saliva." The black-robed old man shook his head and said, "I don't need 3 minutes. I can tell you now that we'll never leave this island." Jin Shi, Shui Sha, He Xiong, Gu Tao, Zhang Ju, shouted Tan Xiu coldly. "You 5, kill those 2 evil beasts first." Understood. Jin Shi and the other 4 respectfully complied and released their flying swords in an instant. As they instantly arranged a sword array, 5 ghostly figures appeared in front of the 2 giant pythons. Puff, puff, 2 clouds of black smoke spurted out from the 2 giant pythons' mouths. The black smoke spread extremely fast and covered a radius of tens of meters in the blink of an eye. Had it not been for Tan Xiu and the others retreating extremely fast, they would have been shrouded by the black smoke. However, Jean Shear's group of 5 didn't retreat. They released their true essence to block the black smoke on the surface of their bodies. Relying on their weak spiritual senses, they controlled their flying swords to form a storm of swords and slashed the 2 giant pythons hundreds of times in just a few seconds. Bam, 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 the scales of the 2 giant pythons were exceptionally hard. Even the invincible flying swords could only leave bloody wounds on them and couldn't cause them any fatal injuries. Furthermore, the 2 giant pythons were drowned in pain and their ferocious nature was completely aroused. Even if their sharp fangs failed to bite again and again, their flexible bodies could still whip Jean Shear's group of 5, be it head or tail. Final blow. Blood overflowed from the corner of Jean Shear's mouth and a crazed look flashed in his eyes. Along with his shout, Shui Sha, He Xiong, Gu Tao, and Zhang Ju cooperated with each other and unleashed the most powerful killing move of the sword array. Sword line. Amidst the twists and turns, a lotus flower composed of swords was formed. The air stirred, quickly dispersing the black mist that shrouded it. Rays of light shone on the lotus flower, causing it to bloom with a dazzling brilliance. The heaven and earth spiritual energy in the surroundings seemed to be summoned and swarmed into the sword lotus flower, causing its size to skyrocket. Devour. Jean Shear's group of 5 roared inwardly as the bright lotus flower fell down toward the 2 giant pythons. In just a blink of an eye, the head of the first giant python was swallowed by the lotus flower, causing a large expanse of blood mist to scatter. Damn it! Another black-robed old man who was kneeling on the boulders suddenly spewed out a mouthful of black smoke. His already pale complexion turned even paler as if there was no trace of blood in it. At this moment, his body rose from the ground and he swept the staff inlaid with gems in his hand. A black dragon formed from the black mist roared and slammed toward Jean Shear's group of 5. Defend! Jean Shear shouted. The 5 of them retreated at the same time. The moment the other giant python turned around to flee, they manipulated their flying swords to form layers of sword walls in front of them. Violent energy erupted between the black dragon and the sword wall. As the black dragon turned into black mist, Jean Shear's group of 5 was also sent flying upside down. However, at this moment, a figure flashed between Jean Shear and Shui Sha lightning fast. It was Mo Ao's flying sword that pierced deep into the black-robed old man's chest. Get lost! The black-robed old man roared furiously. Thousands of strands of black mist appeared out of thin air and instantly wrapped around Mo Ao's limbs and 5 bones. However, just as the black mist touched Mo Ao's body, it was evaded by the true essence energy he released. Tens of meters away. Tom Reggie, who was standing in the crowd, had an extremely shocked expression on his rough face. In just a short moment, he raised his arm and rubbed his eyes several times to make sure he wasn't seeing things. Is this the kind of terrifying power a human can possess? I know Mo Ao's strength very well. More than half a year ago, he was just a bit stronger than me. But how can he be so strong now? Even if there were 100 of me, I still wouldn't be his match, right? That speed, that strength, that explosive power. I'm afraid he can destroy a hill with just one punch, right? Also, those 2 giant pythons are too terrifying. And those 2 black-robed old guys, what kind of power do they have? How can they release black mist? How can they transform the black mist into the form of dragons and tigers to attack? Tom Reggie was well aware of his own strength. He could be regarded as a first-class expert even in the foreign mercenary world. Even if he admitted that some experts were more powerful than him, the number was probably not that many. However, the battle in front of him finally showed him what a real powerhouse was, making him realize that he was absolutely a frog in a well looking at the sky. Become stronger. I also want to become stronger. Tom Reggie clenched his fists tightly as a firm look flashed in his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly rejoiced that he chose to surrender to Tan Xiu. Otherwise, not only would he not be able to see such a scene of slaughter, but he would also have no hope of becoming such a powerhouse in the future. Beside him, Long Zhengyu's expression was quite good and not as shocked as him. However, had it been a few days ago, Long Zhengyu's expression wouldn't be any better than his. After all, Long Zhengyu was just an ordinary person who couldn't even be considered as a martial artist. Suddenly seeing the terrifying battle between the black-robed old man, Wolf Head, Mo On, and the others, as well as the means displayed by the 6 youths, he was shocked to the point that it was hard to be able to be any more shocked. Had it not been for the protection of several experts from the everlasting feast hall, he would have been affected by the battle and died in the battle. Therefore, from that time on, he knew that Tan Xiu had so many bodyguards under him, as well as what kind of terrifying existence they were. He also knew that there were really strange and extraordinary people in this world. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind that after meeting Tan Xiu, he would look for an opportunity to tell Tan Xiu that he also wanted to cultivate. Damn you, old bastard! A yellow paper talisman in Mo O's palm suddenly ignited. Along with the scorching heat, dozens of fire arrows shot at the black-robed old man's chest at close range. Chapter 928. Although it was a sneak attack, Mo O's attack was extremely effective. Whether it was the arrow piercing the opponent's heart or the arrow talisman bombarding the opponent's chest, both inflicted great damage to the black-robed old man. This time, he didn't spurt out black mist but dark gray blood. Big brother. Upon seeing this, the other black-robed old man immediately waved the staff in his hand. Under the attack of the giant tiger transformed from the black mist, Mo O had no choice but to retreat to Tan Xiu, who was tens of meters away. The black-robed old man didn't chase after him. He quickly took out a porcelain bottle from his sleeve pocket and poured out a dark gray pill from it, quickly stuffing it into the injured black-robed old man's mouth. Then, a black mist was released from the gap between his fingers and continuously fused into the injured black-robed old man's heart. A few kilometers away. 6 youths in black uniforms with long swords on their backs were following several experts of the everlasting feast hall as they strode toward the mountaintop. They had clearly seen the scene of the fight just now. The eyes of the youth in the lead flickered. He turned his head and said in a low voice, "They used flying swords. It seems that they are cultivators just like us." Those 5 fellow Taoists were not very strong, perhaps even weaker than us. But the last fellow Taoist is very powerful. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than us. I didn't expect that we would encounter so many cultivators on this island in the vast sea. It seems that Master is wrong. There are many cultivators in this world. The other youth nodded and said, "Senior brother is right. Master has probably been in seclusion for a long time and doesn't know about the outside world. Our sect may have moved from China to Singapore, but China has a long history and a large population. There are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers here. We went out to travel and found those 2 wizards committing murder, so we tracked them all the way here. Try not to have any conflict with the cultivators on this island if it's not necessary." "I understand." The youth in the lead nodded silently. In front of the boulder on the mountaintop, the injured black-robed old man, Sarati, raised his hand to wipe off the dark gray blood on the corner of his mouth and said, "Don't worry. The core of our lives isn't in our hearts. He can't take my life even if he crushes my heart. But be careful, if the opponent isn't a fire ability user, then he'll be a fire magician." Salak solemnly nodded and said, "They are indeed despicable, but they are indeed very strong. If we 2 brothers want to kill all of them, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. In addition, we've lost 1 black dragon, and the remaining one is also heavily injured. Just like you, it won't be able to continue fighting for a while." Sarati nodded and said, "Go negotiate with them. We must stay on the island. Our celestial wizard clan has already sent out the guide signal. As long as we stay on this island, our clansmen will come here as fast as possible. At that time, even if they're really strong, I'm afraid they won't be able to compete with our celestial wizard clan. It won't be too late for us to take revenge at that time." After pondering for a while, Salak got up and looked at Tan Xiu and the others tens of meters away and shouted in a deep voice, "Don't go too far and bully us by relying on numbers. A large number of my celestial wizard clan's clansmen will arrive in less than 2 days. If you dare to act insolently again, my clan will exterminate all of you. Ha ha ha, Tan Shio burst into laughter. His figure flickered and appeared a dozen meters away from Salak and Salak. He looked at the remaining python that surrounded them and protected them. Then, he immediately said in a deep voice, a country has its own territory, and a clan has its own territory. This island is my private territory. I spent a huge sum of money to buy it and spent a lot of manpower and material resources to build it. You came to my territory and yet you're trying to drive us away. What kind of logic is this? I told you that we're willing to buy this island, said Salak in a deep voice. The children of my celestial wizard clan have given us a lot of money. It should be enough to cover all your expenses. What if I fancy your celestial wizard clan's territory? Tan Shio sneered. I'm willing to buy it, but will you sell it? This, Salak was rendered speechless. The celestial wizard clan's territory was the place where their clan had lived for thousands of years. They wouldn't sell it even if they were offered countless mountains of gold and silver. What's wrong? Tan Shio sneered. You don't know how to answer me. Let me tell you, your actions are the same as robbers, no different from bandits. Get the hell out of here at once if you know what's good for you. Also, tell your celestial wizard clansmen that you're not allowed to set foot on my 9 Dragons Island ever again. Else, we'll be mortal enemies. I'll wipe out your entire clan even if I have to exhaust all my forces. A threat. A naked threat. Had it been someone else, Salak and Salak would have snorted and scoffed in disdain. But at this moment, these words came out from Tan Shio's mouth. They were shocked and couldn't help but be more cautious. They didn't know Tan Shio's origin, but the fact that he had so many powerhouses as his subordinates forced them to face the threat posed by Tan Shio. Who are you? Asked Salak in a deep voice. You're not qualified to know who I am, said Tan Shio indifferently. All you need to know is that you'll die today if I really recklessly kill you. If I'm determined to get rid of your celestial wizard clan, I'll have a way to exterminate you even if your clan escapes from Earth. Salak and Salak exchanged glances. Although they didn't believe Tan Shio's words, their mood turned heavy. We can take a step back. We only want the dragon stone in the center of the island. We'll leave immediately once we get it, said Salak again. Dragon stone? Killing intent burst out from Tan Shio's eyes. The so-called dragon stone was the core of the dragon vein that nurtured the dragon vein's essence. Once this dragon vein's essence was taken away, the 9 Dragons Island would instantly become an ordinary place. The dragon vein would dissipate and the heaven and earth's spiritual energy would disperse. Kill them. Tan Shio shouted and took the lead to unleash his divine sword. He then flashed toward the 2 men lightning fast. As the long sword fluttered, a tens of meters long sword beam directly smashed the boulder behind them. Kill. Dozens of guards who came with Tan Shio, including Mo Ao and the others, attacked at the same time. Mo Ao and several other core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall also unleashed their flying swords for the first time, besieging Salak and Salak with murderous intent. Damn it! How can you be so strong? Salak was injured by the sword energy and coughed out a mouthful of grayish-black blood. He could only watch helplessly as the sword beam swept past his severely injured big brother, Salak, and cut a bloody wound on his waist, whereas the python that protected them was directly beheaded. Regret flooded him like a tide. He realized that he had made a fatal mistake, underestimating Tan Shio's strength. He also realized that he had revealed the secret of the dragon stone in the center of the island, which triggered Tan Shio's killing intent. Run! Salak glanced towards the northwest and instantly returned to his elder brother Salaka's side. After grabbing his brother's arm, they attempted to flee towards the northeast where the ship was docked. It was a pity. His speed was very fast, but Tang Shio, Mo Ao, and the rest who were flying on their flying swords were even faster. In just a few seconds, the 2 brothers, Salak and Salak, were surrounded by flashing flying swords in tricky and strange routes, constantly launching fierce attacks at them. Please stop. We will give up on the dragon stone. Salak only managed to block and dodge for a dozen seconds before an expert called out. The divine sword under Tan Xiu's control transformed into a sea of swords. The layers of sword shadows were like endless waves, constantly attacking Salak and Salak. Run! Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted from the seriously injured Wuladi. He grabbed Wuladi and threw him towards the northeast. Wuladi's body was instantly pierced by several flying swords. However, at this moment, his body bulged up like a ball, and black smoke formed a tornado that surrounded him. If you want to kill me, then be prepared to be buried with me. All of you, go to hell. Salak grinned and his body exploded with a loud bang. The tornado formed by the grayish-black smoke instantly increased tenfold and directly swallowed several weaker island guards. Retreat! The black smoke is poisonous. Tan Xiu's skin was contaminated by the black smoke, and the strong corrosive force made his complexion change. As he performed a hand seal, a heavy rain suddenly poured down from the sky. Strands of primal chaos force turned into ribbons that wrapped around the waists of his subordinates and pushed them into the distance. Not far away. The eyes of the 6 teenagers were filled with shock. They were only slightly surprised when Moo, Jinshi, and the others attacked. But when Tan Xiu attacked, they instantly judged that Tan Xiu's strength was much stronger than theirs. How can he be so strong? Even if it was a golden core stage powerhouse, he would only be able to do this, right? Master said that there are practically no golden core stage cultivators on Earth. The young man in the lead had a slightly pale complexion as he muttered to himself. Beside him, the other youth desperately gulped down a mouthful of saliva and stared fixedly at the scene of the battle. He said in shock, "He's very strong. I think that even Master isn't much stronger than him. A Foundation establishment cultivator would not be able to do this." As their voices faded away, they exchanged glances and stopped at the same time. If only. Tan Xiu's age seemed to be the same as those middle-aged men before, so they could barely accept it and thought that he was a senior who had cultivated for many years. However, Tan Xiu was too young. He looked only a few years older than them, which made it hard for these arrogant geniuses to accept it. Chapter 929. Although Tan Xiu had sent dozens of his men out of the Black Mist's range, Moo and the others didn't stay idle. After getting rid of the Primal Chaos Force's shackles, they immediately bypassed the Black Mist and rushed northeast. They must kill. They must kill all the enemies. Even if Salak was stronger than them, they would still go all out to carry out Tan Xiu's order. With intense killing intent, Tan Xiu passed through the black mist and chased after Salak like a maggot attached to a bone. He could feel the grief and indignation of Salak, but he didn't have the slightest pity for him. Enemies were enemies. Since he had chosen to kill them, he couldn't leave any survivors lest they suffer more troubles in the future. You can't escape. Stepping on the divine sword, Tan Xiu moved as fast as a meteor and stopped Salak at the edge of 9 Dragons Island in just half a minute. As he cast the lightning imperial art, dark clouds suddenly surged in the clear sky, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Shortly after, arm-thick lightning bolts fell from the clouds and bombarded the fleeing Salak. In the air 2 kilometers behind, the shock on the faces of the 6 youths turned more intense. One of them even shouted excitedly, "The lightning imperial art? He's using the authentic lightning imperial art. Heavens! This lightning imperial art is way too powerful. It's much more powerful than the lightning imperial art used by our Grand Master. Who is he? Why does he have such a high cultivation? How can the lightning imperial art he mastered be so strong to such an unimaginable extent? Look! The lightning is increasing. It's like a sea of lightning. That's awesome." The leading youngster shouted with a shocked expression, "Quick, use the communication talisman to inform Master and Grandmaster. Tell them about the situation here." Lightning wreaked havoc in the northeast of 9 Dragons Island, shrouding the area within a kilometer in lightning as though it was raining lightning. Although Salak Salak was very strong, he could only resist such a powerful lightning attack for a short while before the lightning strikes continuously struck him and turned him into charcoal. Tan Xiu stood in the air and retracted the godly sword back into his body. As the imperial thunder technique dissipated, the thunder and lightning stopped descending. The dark clouds in the clear sky also dispersed quickly. Tan Xiu looked at Wuladi's charred body, then at the endless sea in the distance. Celestial Wizard Clan. Tan Xiu knew that this matter wasn't over yet. Not to mention the 6 young cultivators from a mysterious sect in the vicinity, just the fact that the 2 black-robed old men had informed the Celestial Wizard Clan's clansmen was enough to make this matter very troublesome. Ah Wu, is everyone alright? Tan Xiu asked when he saw Mo Au and the others catching up. For our dead and 6 are injured, but the rest are fine, said Mo Au. Boss, you've become stronger again. Tan Xiu said, cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. This progress is way too fast. Mo Au forced a smile. We thought we'd catch up with you soon, but it turns out that we're getting farther and farther away from you. Those 2 old geezers are very strong. I'm afraid I'm not their match in a one-on-one fight. You're already very good, said Tan Xiu. After all, you've only been cultivating for less than a year since you stepped into the path of cultivators from ordinary martial artists. However, there's still a big gap between you and those youths. The 6 of them are so young, yet all of them have broken through to the late stage of foundation establishment. I really don't know how powerful their sects are. Mo Au's expression shifted and he hurriedly said, Boss, according to you, 9 Dragons Island is a blessed paradise, a treasure land that cultivators most hope to have. Now that those 6 little guys know about this place, what do you think we should do? Should we get rid of them? Tan Xiu glanced at the southern sky and shook his head. Don't do anything to them yet. Tell everyone to be on guard against them. Don't clash with them as long as they don't do anything bad on 9 Dragons Island. They can cultivate to the late stage of foundation establishment at such a young age, so their sects must be very powerful. We're still very weak, so we need more time. I understand. Mo Au nodded. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he flew straight to the 6 youths in the distance. When he came before them, a smile appeared on his handsome face as he cupped his fists and said, Little brothers, I didn't expect you to have such cultivation at such a young age. Let me introduce myself. My surname is Tang and given name is Xiu, the master of 9 Dragons Island. May I know how to address you 6 little brothers? Which sect are you from? The leading youth cupped his fists and said, I'm Jin Chanzi, and these 5 junior brothers of mine are Jin Xingzi, Jin Fengzi, Jin Yunzi, Jin Huizi, and Jin Yanzi. We're all disciples of the whole unitary sect, and our master is Daoist Zixuan. May I ask which sect you're from, Daoist Tang? I don't belong to any sect or sect, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. My men are all trained by me. Why did you come to my 9 Dragons Island, Jin Chanzi? We left the pocket world we lived in accordance with the orders of our masters and elders to travel outside, said Jin Chanzi. It's just that we happened to run into those 2 evil wizards from the Western world, so we followed them all the way and came here by accident. I hope you can forgive us, Daoist Tang, since we came here without your permission. Tan Xiu faintly had an illusion after listening to Jin Chanzi's genteel speech. Back in the immortal world, cultivators also addressed each other as fellow Daoist. He didn't expect to encounter such a situation on Earth today. It's all right. I've already heard about your matter from my subordinates. In fact, I should thank you. If it weren't for your timely arrival, I'm afraid that more of my men would have died in battle and those 2 celestial wizard villains would have destroyed my island. You're too polite, Daoist Tang, said Jin Chanzi modestly. Those 2 wizards have done many evil deeds, so we naturally couldn't let them run amok. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, Everyone, I can see that you're quite young and a few years younger than me. If you don't mind, don't call me fellow Daoist. How about we call each other brothers? You call me Big Brother Tang, and I'll call you Little Brothers. Jean Chanzi and his martial brothers glanced at each other and nodded in agreement. They had witnessed Tan Xiu's strength and knew that he was much stronger than them. Now that Tan Xiu humbled himself and wanted to make friends with them, they naturally didn't want to refuse. "We've killed those 2 celestial wizard clansmen, little brothers," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "It can be said that we've gotten rid of these 2 scourges, so my island is now peaceful for the time being. Everyone, please follow me to my residence. Let's have a good chat." "All right." The 6 youths nodded. Shortly after, Tan Xiu took the 6 youths to the palace and ordered the servants to prepare some food and wine. He then chatted with the 6 youths in the living room on the first floor. After learning about them, he learned that the whole unitary sect only had a few dozens of disciples. The 6 of them were the lowest-ranking disciples in the sect. "You're the lowest in the sect, yet you have such a cultivation level. Then, your sect's elders must be even more powerful, no? Does your sect have any nascent soul stage powerhouses?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Jean Chanzi hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, "Our whole unitary sect's supreme elder is a nascent soul stage powerhouse. But he's in seclusion all year round and often doesn't appear for decades. I heard from my master that the supreme elder came out of seclusion a few decades ago because of a heaven and earth phenomenon. Big Brother Tang might laugh at us, but we haven't seen the supreme elder yet." "You said that a heaven and earth phenomenon appeared a few decades ago. What exactly was it?" asked Tan Xiu. "We don't know much about what happened a few decades ago," said Jean Chanzi. "We only heard from our sect's elders that 2 terrifying auras appeared. When those 2 auras appeared, the entire sky was dyed red with blood, as if the end of the world had come. Furthermore, our sect's elders have divined and predicted that a major event would happen. In the end, dozens of years have passed, and nothing has happened." 2 auras. Tang Xiu's mind was suddenly as clear as a mirror. It was very likely that the heaven and earth phenomenon was caused by Gu Yan, and Ji Qimei coming to earth. Immediately, Tan Xiu asked another question. "Your whole unitary sect was originally in Huaxia, wasn't it? Why did all the disciples of your sect suddenly move to Singapore? Did something happen to your sect back then?" "Nothing happened," said Jean Chanzi with a smile. "It's just that our sect's elders found an entrance to a pocket world somewhere in Singapore. After our sect's elders explored it, they determined that the pocket world was a paradise. In addition, Huaxia had just been established and the country was in turmoil, so we moved to that pocket world." Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He knew that there was an entrance to a pocket world on Earth. For example, his subordinates had once reported that an entrance to a pocket world had been found somewhere. However, he was very weak before and didn't want to take the risk, so he put it aside until now. "It's time for me to explore that pocket world after I'm done with this. Generally speaking, such a pocket world has a lot of treasures. I hope that the pocket world I'm about to explore has a lot of cultivation resources." Tan Xiu thought for a while and then looked at the 6 people. Suddenly, "Big Brother Tang, you said that you don't belong to any sect and that your subordinates were trained by you. What's going on?" asked Jean Chanzi. "Could it be that you have inherited a cultivation technique from your family?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "I accidentally obtained a cultivation technique. I was just trying to cultivate it, but I didn't expect that I would actually succeed. Later on, I fumbled along the way and finally reached my current cultivation level. However, I had several fortuitous encounters during this period and obtained several ancient books on cultivation." Jean Chanzi suddenly understood and enviously said, "We heard from our sect's elders that there are indeed some cultivator inheritances on Earth. It's just that we didn't have your luck and didn't have any fortuitous encounters. Big Brother Tang, I saw you use the Thunderbolt Imperial art when you were fighting that wizard. It seemed to be very powerful.